Greetings. My name is Louis Molina, and I'm with the Life Puro podcast. Today, I have a childhood friend of mine here in the studio with me, David Laiche. So with that, David, thanks for coming in today.
No, thanks for having me, Lou.
Yeah, man.
It's been one of those things I've been meaning to do, and I'm very fortunate to finally be on your show. I'm very happy to be on your show.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for having me.
No, I'm excited about this one since if people can see it on screen, all the equipment, and we'll get more into it later, but you are the Scuba Enthusiast. So
Amongst our friends.
yeah.
I'm the scuba junkie.
Yep. So, no, glad to have you on so you can hopefully give us some education on what the world of scuba diving is about and maybe educate and inspire, hopefully, some of our viewers to maybe take this up.
Yeah, no, and like it's a fantastic hobby. If you have the physical ability to do it, because it's not. It can be physically demanding depending on what type of diving you're doing, but if you have the physical ability to do scuba diving, I definitely recommend it. It's very, to me, it's very therapeutic.
Yeah.
It's very therapeutic. It's very relaxing. And it's one of my favorite things to do.
Oh, yeah. So before we deep dive into that, pun intended, we're smoking cut and light a cigar, which we offer all our guests. So that's yours. Today we're featuring Olmec by Foundation Cigars. I'm sure you've had this one before, right?
Oh, yeah. It's great smoke.
And this is the Maduro grade. So we chose this one because of your bloodline, you being Mexican.
Heritage,
Mexican heritage. I figured it was appropriate. The wrapper here is a Mexican San Andres wrapper. Maduro grade. The one we're smoking is the double Corona. And it's a 7x54. This is the box for our viewers to look at. Very simple. I think they're 12 count boxes, which is kind of unique. Yeah. Some boxes of cigars are 20, 25 count, but this is a 12 count box from Nicaragua's Foundation cigar. And that's Nick Melillo. So, yeah, cut and light. The Olmecs, this is probably, as some of you know, the story is that was a pre-Columbian Native American tribe. I think it predates the Aztecs. You know a little bit more.
So they predate the Aztecs, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they existed along the Gulf states. I think it was Tabasco and all the way down to Chiapas. Well, present day Mexico. So
Okay.
yeah. And so yes, they do predate the Aztecs. And, I believe they also predate the Maya as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
And
so yeah, if you take a look at that's actually one of the famous. One of the stone statues. That's one of the Olmec ruin archaeological sites.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No, it just reminds me. So Nick wanted to create this brand as a tribute to supposedly the first human people to use tobacco. So if you look at the box, the imagery, it's that Olmec head.
Yep.
Of this individual from that tribe, and he's smoking basically loose tobacco. It looks like a cigar, but I guess like a cigar as you would find it back then. So pretty cool tribute to that group and their relationship to tobacco. So
that was one of the, if I remember correctly, that's in Tuxtla Gutierrez, right? One of the archaeological sites in Tuxtla Gutierrez has that.
Wow.
I think it does. I don't
Yeah, I have to
recall
look
off the
that
top of
up.
my head.
Well, and that would be an interesting connection because I'm sure you know a lot of the wrapper leaf from that region, the San Andreas region. Tuxtla is, I guess, like a capital city of it, or like a center of that tobacco industry for that wrapper type, and I'm sure they use that leaf for filler grades too when they get it. But it reminds me of Tatuaje. They have a series of cigars or designation, anything with that secondary green band, it'll say Tuxtla, and that's in reference to that city in that region that I guess has that tobacco that's grown.
Tuxtla is in Chiapas.
It's in Chiapas? Okay. Have you ever been there?
Never been to Chiapas, no.
Okay.
Nope.
And all your years, so give me a little background of your family history, like where they're from in Mexico, what parts of Mexico you've been to?
So my dad is originally from this area. He was born and raised. He was born in Charity Hospital, 1938. So he was born and, well, essentially for the most part raised here in the New Orleans area. He did spend a good bit of his time in Lutcher, Louisiana. He ended up meeting my mother when she was about 27 years old. And my mom is originally from northern part of Mexico, along the border called there's a town along the border called Ciudad Acuña. It's right under the Texas border. It's on the other side of Del Rio, Texas.
Okay.
She was born further south from Ciudad Acuña, a place called Monclova, Coahuila, state of Coahuila.
Okay.
And so, yeah, and so my grandparents, my grandfather was he was a journalist in Mexico, and so he used to have his own newspaper printing shop along in Ciudad Acuña. It was called El Eco.
That was the name of the paper?
Yeah, El Eco.
El
ECO. El Eco.
Oh, okay.
ECO. Yep.
El Eco.
Like an echo.
Yeah.
Right? You know,
okay.
because back then, you know, you used to have the newspaper boy, you know, and he'd be calling out, you know, he would be calling out the name of the newspaper, El Eco.
Kind of like you see in like old time American movies, like the old paper boy on the corner.
Correct. Yep.
Oh, okay.
So create, I guess, an echo. I guess that's where he got the name from.
Cool. So he started that paper or owned it?
He started that from scratch, and it also doubled as a print shop, right? And after he passed, well, you know, he passed in early 2000s. My grandfather did. Things were starting to move towards the digital age, unfortunately, right? And so there really wasn't a need to print out old invitations for quinceañeras and weddings and whatnot, right? And there wasn't, you know, media was changing because of the internet, because of, you know, digital age and whatnot. So
getting rid of the paper, huh?
Yeah. And so my uncle had been running the print shop, the business for a little bit after he passed, but unfortunately, because of the change in times, you know, it went under eventually. So
yeah,
yeah,
he couldn't stay relevant, or at least adopt, you know, or adapt. Yeah.
But you were asking which parts of Mexico did I? Well, I mean, have I visited? So I've spent quite a bit of time in the northern part of Mexico. Like I said, Ciudad Acuña, up and down the state of Coahuila. Saltillo. My grandparents had two houses. My grandparents had a house in Ciudad Acuña, and further about 6 hours south, in Saltillo. Saltillo is the capital of Coahuila. So I was practically raised there. You know, I'd spend my summers in Mexico. I'd spend my, you know, spend Christmas time, and so I spent quite a bit of time there. And to this day, I still keep up with a lot of friends, a lot of kids I grew up with. You know, from a very young age. So
yeah. What is the nearest, I guess, American town or city closest to, I guess, that where you would visit?
Well, Del Rio, Texas, right? Del Rio, Texas, is on the other side of Ciudad Acuña.
Okay.
Yep. And so Del Rio, Texas is.
And where is that in relation? I'm sorry, to like Texas. Is that like near the Panhandle, way west, or
that's
more like down south center?
San Antonio. You know where San Antonio is at?
Yeah.
My mom and I, growing up, we used to make this drive. Sometimes we'd make the drive, but
from New Orleans.
From New Orleans all the way to Ciudad Acuña, 13 hours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's about, as you know, 5 hours to Houston, right, by car.
Yeah.
And then it was another 4 hours to San Antonio, and then it's 9, and then from San Antonio you'd have to go through all these small little border towns until you reach, you know, Del Rio, Texas.
Okay.
And then you'd cross over Del Rio, Texas in Ciudad Acuña.
Okay. Yep. Now, what was that like? Because I'm imagining like the typical American wondering like, oh man, that's got to be dangerous. You know, especially in light of like the drug cartels and what we see on TV. Like, was there any of that going on when you were traveling back then when you were little?
When I was younger, so here's the thing. I mean, I'm sure for those who haven't seen Narcos Mexico, right, the reason you have all of these individual cartels is because of what ended up happening to the guy who was running Guadalajara cartel, right? And so back then, when I was growing up, you really didn't hear much about it. You know, it was very quiet. Everything was under the table. You know, you didn't hear much about that that cartel violence, right? That's because it was one big, sindicato. When it was one big sindicato,
Yeah.
right? Or what, like a
Like
union.
a syndicate. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
syndicate. It was
working
one big
cohesively.
union, right?
Okay.
And so all of those individual, right, like cartels that you have now, all those individual cartels that you have now were under one guy.
Okay.
And they were called plazas.
Hmm.
Yep. So it was under one guy. That was
So as a result, it was probably more stable.
Yeah, it was more stability, and you really didn't
Because you'd
hear
have the
about
violence.
the violence.
Yeah.
Right. Now later on, and I forget the guy's name who got arrested and thrown in jail. He was the head of a Guadalajara cartel. After he was thrown in jail because he ended up, he ended up killing the guy from the DEA. After he went to jail, all those individual plazas splintered off and became their own cartel.
It's like a power vacuum.
Yeah,
huh?
so there's a power vacuum cracked.
And as a result, all the bloodshed and trying to.
Yep, that's how we got to where we are now. They cut off the head of the Hydra, and all these individual Hydras.
Yeah.
Ended up
Trying to
sprouting
take
up.
power. Yeah.
And trying to take power and trying to fight for territory.
Did you ever come across any sticky situations or no? Okay.
No, I've never experienced any of that firsthand. Nah.
Yeah.
It was, me growing up. We used to go out and play football. We used to play football. Pretty much the entire damn day.
And by football, you mean soccer
yeah,
to
by
the
soccer,
to the American. Yeah. You're good. You're good.
Yep,
That's
and
the correct. That's a real football.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, me and my friends, we'd go out in I wouldn't say very early in the morning, but, we'd go out in the morning and we'd just play all damn day.
Yeah.
And then come back after dark.
Yep. You probably had the parents would try to get you all to come inside.
And we had zero problems.
That's good.
And this was all the way up until I was in college.
Okay.
I never had any bad experiences where my grandparents grew up. It was a fantastic, great childhood, and I miss it. I haven't been to Mexico in quite some time. I haven't been to that part of Mexico in quite some time, and I need to go.
Yeah.
Need to go see my family. But nowadays, if I were to go today, I don't be honest with you. Not entirely too sure. I haven't heard of many bad things happening around that particular part of Mexico, right?
Okay.
I do know that you used to have the Zetas, which Z's, right? Zeta.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep,
Zeta is Z in
Yeah.
Spanish. Okay.
Yep, you had the Zetas that were causing some issues there for a little bit, but nowadays it's fairly calm. I
Okay.
haven't really heard of anything too bad. I do know to get back to the United States right now, the main issue to get back from Mexico to the United States, crossing at Del Rio, you're looking at hours and hours and hours. Yeah.
Well, why is that?
Wait time because
Because of the migration's coming?
Well, yeah, because everybody's they're being extra vigilant about what's going on over there right now. But yeah, like I said, never really had those issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I grew up. Other parts of Mexico I've been to. I've been all the way out to Cabo San Lucas. Went there back in 2016. That's along the Pacific side. That's Baja California.
Oh,
That's
okay.
absolutely beautiful. That's a gorgeous part of Mexico. Really enjoyed it.
And what so yeah, feel free to puff. I know a lot of our guests, they end up talking too much, like their cigar goes out. So yeah, don't worry about that. But yeah, so Cabo, you said, is on the Pacific
Cabo San Lucas
side.
Yep.
On Baja California, that's like the other peninsula
Yep.
of Mexico. Yeah.
Yep. And so Cabo San Lucas is right on the very end of Baja California.
Okay.
So on the Pacific, you also have Acapulco, Puerto Vallarta. Vallarta's, I've been to both of those places. Vallarta's absolutely stunning. And it's one of those beach resorts that's been slowly becoming more and more popular over the years.
Puerto Vallarta?
Puerto Vallarta, yep.
Okay.
It's in Jalisco.
Okay.
It's
Is that in Baja or on the other side?
Oh, no.
Across
Jalisco.
the bay?
So you have Baja California here, right? Then you have Jalisco's like further down south.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I went to Acapulco,
Guadalajara?
Acapulco during college.
Yep.
Yeah, we went one spring break.
And Acapulco used to be one of the go-to places, especially during the jet setter.
The Rat Pack
Yeah.
days. Yeah.
The 50s, 60s. It was considered the very first. Hold on a sec.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, because I remember that when I went there, I did a tour. This guy like kind of guided me throughout the town, and he was saying like Elvis. That's where Elvis did a movie there, or the there was a movie, an Elvis movie based on that town. I think it's called Acapulco. I forget.
I believe you're right.
Yeah.
Yep. I think
they had a good song in that movie too. I forgot how it goes though. Yeah, but I'm kind of an Elvis enthusiast. You know. But you're right. It was like I guess would this be the proper analogy for Acapulco, that it was like the Cancun of its day?
It was the Cancun of its
day. Like in the 50s
correct.
or 60s?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then nowadays though, I mean, the tourism in Mexico is just blown up. I mean, especially with like all these places, you know, like Puerto Vallarta in Cabo San Lucas, Cancun.
Yeah.
You know, Cancun was before the megatropolis that it is today, right? It's super Americanized today. I mean, you have like all these big malls, and you have all this, you know,
just touristy stuff.
Yeah. And so it was
like a sleepy village.
It was
like
a sleepy fishing village, right?
Kind of like Desting, Florida.
All these places started off as small, little sleepy villages, and then just blew up.
Yeah.
Well, they blew up because the Mexican government started pumping in money and started attracting all of the big hoteliers, all the big hotels and whatnot, and started
developing,
bringing them over to those parts of Mexico, and having them, you know, giving them incentives to develop their big mega hotels, and it's just gone.
Because I remember, like, our family, they would take me and my brothers to Cancun in the early 90s. Maybe the first time we went was in the late 80s or early 90s. And it was right before that, like, it became so touristy, like that first wave of American tourists. Yep. And it was still kind of like sleepy. Well, not sleepy, but like it's definitely a lot smaller. We stayed at Camino Real, which I'm not sure if it's still there.
It's still there.
It's still there?
Oh, yeah. It's one of the older hotels there, yeah.
Yeah, but it was like swank. I'm sure it's still swanky today, but like back then it was really swanky. But it wasn't as crazy as Spring Breaker as it got in that later that decade. Because I remember like, we were in our teens in the mid 90s, and remember back then like MTV would have like these programs of spring break.
Yep.
And they would show like all these college kids in spring break in different parts of like, I guess the Gulf Coast, and even in Cancun. I thought like, oh, we used to go there, but I don't remember ever seeing like the party life like that.
Oh yeah, it's a totally different place than it is today.
It's probably like
it's
you
like
said,
the Las
even more
Vegas
developed.
Almost. Oh yeah, it's even more developed. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it hadn't been like since the early 90s, so
yep.
I wonder how it is. And I
guess I was also about to say I was also about to bring this up. Places that I've been to that really aren't in Mexico, that really aren't that well known. I mean, Shawshank Redemption. You've seen that movie, right?
Yeah.
At the very end, you remember the name of the town?
Oh, the beach that he went to. Yeah. Hold on. Oh.
Cihuatanejo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Cihuatanejo. That's actually around Acapulco. It's around it's on the Pacific side.
You went there?
Oh yeah, I've been there.
How is it in terms of like the development? Is it still kind of sleepy or middle?
Yeah, it's still kind of. I haven't been there in a good bit, but
okay.
And I last went when I was 17 years old, but it's when I did go, it was still in its, I guess you could say, sleepy stage.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's one example of places that too many tourists really don't know about, right? Cihuatanejo. I mean, they know about it through Shawshank Redemption probably, but it's a beautiful, beautiful part of Mexico.
And
Ixtapa is another place.
What's it called?
Ixtapa.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's what's I think cool about Mexico, and maybe I think more and more Americans are realizing how diverse Mexico as a country is. It's not just like the stereotypical whatever thoughts you had about it, like maybe a border town. It's not like all of Mexico is not like that. I mean, you have like the Yucatan with its own culture and feel and cuisine, Oaxaca with its own, like to Baja. I mean, everywhere in between. I mean, it's so diverse. And to me, it's pretty cool.
I grew up in the northern part of Mexico, and that has its own distinct, culture, right? You go over there, and you'll see folks you'll see people dressed up in like cowboy hats and big buckles
Yeah,
and boots,
almost like
and stuff
Texan,
like that.
like what you think like Texan
yeah.
culture. Yeah,
Yep, and that's because the vaquero lifestyle is still very alive there, right? The vaquero lifestyle, the whole the meat industry is absolutely huge. Yep,
and I guess because Texas wasn't it once part of Mexico,
correct. Yeah,
or at least some parts of Texas were. Yeah, no, it's very cool. It's a very unique country. It's just a shame that you have some,
bad
issues.
elements. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
I mean, but that's
that's anywhere.
that's anywhere, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, those organizations have become, more and more. They're becoming more and more powerful, and just.
Yeah,
just-
did you? Yeah, I mean, I just saw a documentary about Black Thursday. Remember that? That was when El Chapo's kid was. I guess he was caught by the Mexican
El
government.
Chapito.
Yeah,
That was El
so
Chapito.
they got him, and then like all the gangs revolted, and like they all united, and they just like leveled this city, trying to force the government to let him go, and they did.
Yeah.
And I remember this documentary. This lady, it was from Trafficked. I don't know if you heard of that show on Nat Geo. They interviewed this one Mexican police officer. You could tell it was a female, but I guess she wanted to be hidden because I guess she felt or feared for reprisals, saying that day, that was a day that Mexico truly became a narco state.
Yeah.
They lost power. The government couldn't help or control that situation, which is kind of sad.
So the story goes, how I was saying when I was growing up, you really didn't hear about all the narco violence and all that, and that is because the story goes, and it's a pretty credible story that the organization, all these individual, I mean not the individual organizations, but the organization on the Guadalajara cartel had basically a pact with the Mexican government. The Mexican government basically said, hey, you guys can do your thing, right? Do it under the table. Do whatever you need to do. However, don't cause any trouble. Don't, the second you cause trouble, then we're going to come after you.
Right.
So what ended up happening, they ended up killing Kike Camarena, who was a DEA agent. And ended up,
that was that season of Narcos, I remember.
Yep, and that's a lot of that stuff that, a lot of it's true. A lot of it's true.
Wow.
But Kike Camarena, he was kidnapped, tortured, ended up killed. And so once that happened, well,
the gloves came off.
The gloves had to come off, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they ended up arresting the head of a Guadalajara cartel and, those individual plazas, right, who were controlling different areas, right, became a power struggle from there on.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, like, just because this happens doesn't mean that people shouldn't consider Mexico as a travel destination. I'm sure there's still cities and towns that you can go. Like, I went to Mexico City, or the what do they call it now? Distrito or
Distrito del Federal. Yep.
Yeah, Mexico City.
El DF.
Yeah, the DF.
Yep.
But now they don't call it that.
They call it CDMX.
Yeah.
Yep. CDMX.
CDMX. Ciudad Mexico.
Ciudad de Mexico.
Yeah.
Yep.
I went there. I think it was in September of 2018. I think it was. I went with another friend, and man, we just went for like the weekend, and it was cool. Like we went there for like, me being a little chunky for the food. We did like a gourmet trip that weekend. It was awesome.
That's a place I haven't been to. It's been ages. Been ages. But Guadalajara, I remember visiting. I have an aunt that lives in Guadalajara, tia that lives in Guadalajara, and I remember visiting Guadalajara and liking it very much.
Yeah.
Oaxaca, my mom took me all over Mexico.
That's where I want to go.
Oaxaca's beautiful.
So what can you give me like an overview? Like what is Oaxaca about?
So Oaxaca is like, when you go to Oaxaca, if I could kind of correlate it with something, it's kind of like New Orleans, right? And then you still have that colonial atmosphere. So you have the Mexican colonial atmosphere that's still present.
Okay.
And you walk along the streets, it's like old colonial Spain, right? You have old cathedrals that have existed there for centuries and centuries, right? From the I want to say it's either from the 16th or 17th century. It's old Spanish colonial, cathedral that was built when the Spanish Empire was there, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, it's almost like stepping back in time. It's kind of like going to New Orleans, going to the French Quarter.
Yeah.
Right?
And you and I have been to Spain a couple times, and what's cool, like you can definitely tell when you go to a lot of parts of Mexico, the imprint of that Spain had upon Mexico in terms of like everyone, most of the major cities have that like Plaza Mayor.
Yep.
Like in Mexico City,
Oh, yeah.
they call it the Zocalo, and we stayed right near the Zocalo when my friend and I went. And they usually have the church in the main church in the center, and then just like built out from there. You have these shops, kind of like in the French Quarter, where you have the commercial businesses on the bottom floor, and then like usually residences above it.
Yep.
So it's a very Spanish kind of architecture and layout. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely very very neat.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it here in New Orleans too. That very same layout.
Yeah, which because the Spanish
Because the Spanish influence here in New Orleans as well, right?
Yeah.
Right. The architecture, yeah.
So what is it like to be back in Baton Rouge, your old stomping grounds?
So, no, I lived here for 4 years. I went to LSU, and no, it's good to be back home. It's certainly a lot larger than what It's not the small college town of the late '90s and early 2000s. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Place is blown up.
Yeah,
it's blown up.
Yeah. What'd you think about the lunch today? We went to curbside
that was really
curbside
good,
burger.
That was
pretty
awesome.
good.
I had a hankering for a burger, so yeah, this is really good.
Yeah, they do a good burger there too.
And the Overpass, that's another good joint. And I like going there.
Yeah, but those places weren't here when you attended. Yeah.
No, I mean you had Rotolo's Pizza. So when I was going to school here, I was living in Tiger Plaza, and that's back. Well, it was pretty safe to live in Tiger Plaza. It wasn't too bad. I never had any issues. So I lived over in Tiger Plaza. You had Rotolo's. You had
Raising Cane's.
Yep,
That's when
Raising Cane's.
That's when it came out.
Yep.
Because I remember you took me to Cane's for the first time. It was, I guess, their number 2 spot.
Yeah. Yep. I think that's really all. They only had just a handful of spots back then.
Yeah.
Back when I was going to school here. Yep. So, yeah. I mean, let's see. When I first go into when I was a freshman here, Jerry DiNardo was still coach.
Oh,
that was his last season, and we had a terrible season.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Then after that, we had the Nick Saban years, which were fantastic. Yeah, so I got to experience Nick Saban years, and some pretty damn good football.
Yeah, they won their championship your senior year, huh?
Yeah, it was 03. Yep.
Yeah, it was 03. Yep. And how long was Nick Saban a coach here in LSU?
From 2000. Yeah, so it was from 2000 to he left in what?
Was it like 2008?
04 or 05.
Oh, okay.
Then I want to say it was either 04 or 05, and then he went to the Dolphins. And he had, crappy couple years there, and then he went to Alabama, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. Oh, man. It felt like he was here longer than that. I guess that's how impactful he was.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, you got to give it to Saban. I mean, he established LSU as a, SEC powerhouse. I mean, let's look at it this way. 1958, that was at that point before we won the national championship in 03. 1958, we had only won one national championship.
Yeah.
Billy Cannon era.
So for like 40 years, LSU was kind of irrelevant. Huh?
Well, and I wouldn't say irrelevant. I mean, they had some pretty darn good seasons, especially in the 60s, 60s, 70s. But yeah, they never won another national championship.
Yeah, until Nick Saban era.
Nick Saban era, yeah.
No. So let's talk about, I guess, the equipment here. What can you tell me about
All right.
this?
So, no, this is one of my passions. One of my favorite hobbies is scuba diving. So,
okay. Like, when did you start scuba diving?
So I started scuba diving kind of late. So let me tell you how I really got interested and got into scuba diving. I'll start off with that. So from a very young age, I've always been drawn to the water. I've always enjoyed, enjoyed swimming and just enjoyed being in the ocean. I've always loved being in the water.
Yeah, I know your affinity for Jaws, the movie.
Yep.
Yeah,
I guess and my dad was very big into skin diving. He was a snorkeler first and foremost, and so I want to say when I was either 11 or 12 years old, Dad took me snorkeling for the very first time, and I kind of got hooked from there. I became addicted to it. Before then, though, I mean, I was about 6 years old, and every time my parents would go to rent a video or whatever, rent a movie, I'd always ask for Jaws. And so yeah, you were asking about Jaws. Love Jaws, absolutely love Jaws. And so there's quite a few scenes in that movie, with scuba diving and whatnot, right? Matt Hooper, who was a oceanographer, right? And one of the main characters in that movie,
Is it the college boy?
yeah, the college boy with the nice boat, and
Yeah.
gets in the cage, and tries
Like
to
White
kill.
Glove, like he just
Yeah.
didn't want to get dirty.
Yep, but his character, and there's a few scenes where he's doing a bit of diving, doing a bit of scuba diving and whatnot, and I guess you could say that kind of piqued my interest. I love that movie
Really?
so much. Yeah,
You think your Jaws like helped
I would think so.
at
Yeah,
least kind of planted the seeds for your interest in scuba diving?
I would think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I love watching that movie so much. I think that's probably the movie I've seen the most. Right. As a matter of fact, I have Matt Hooper's watch on.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. And you're a watch guy.
Mhm.
I forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Hold on.
Like you know your watches. Like I appreciate watches. I just don't. I don't really know much about, it, and I don't want to know because I know it can get expensive.
That's what they call that's an Ulster, not a scaff. And if you really look real close
Mhm.
while you're watching that movie, Matt Hooper has that.
Yeah,
Has
it's
that,
nice.
Yeah, has that very same watch, and that's one of the watches that died in the 70s because of the whole what they call the quartz revolution, right? So you saw a lot of companies, small brands, that were making mechanical watches go away because of the influx, because the large amount of quartz watches that were being produced for a lot cheaper than
For
one of these.
cheaper?
Yep.
So is this Timex I have just a quartz movement?
It's a quartz movement, but
Yeah.
let me tell you something about Timex. I mean, Timex is they've gone from a cheapo, brand from cheapo quartz brand from the '60s to it's actually pretty damn rugged, well-made watch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say anything bad about Timex.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed it. Like I said, I don't want to really delve into that world because I know it can get expensive.
It can be,
Yeah.
it can be an expensive world,
But I appreciate it. I mean,
but
obviously a lot of cigar guys are big watch guys. It's all kind of all blends together, right? Just the nice things of life, kind of culture,
but I mean, to get back to
Oh yeah, to
This
get back-
watch-
So that was in Jaws.
so this was this model was in Jaws, but I mean, I've always liked dive watches because I like diving.
Okay.
I love that.
Okay.
So it goes hand in hand,
Mm.
right? And so, first and foremost, this, and I'll get to the dive computers in a minute, right? This used to be your dive computer. It was used to measure what they call bottom time, right? And
And what's bottom time? Like
All
the
right.
amount of time you would be underwater?
so it is, according to, and I don't have any dive tables here, unfortunately, right? So back before, and they still make you study this whenever you do your open water basic, right? But back before we have what we have today, and those are dive computers, right?
Okay.
You would use dive tables, and these dive tables were essentially they were created from old U.S. Navy. The U.S. Navy first developed the dive tables, and so what it tells you is you don't have. Do you have your like
My dive watch?
No. Do you have your dive
Log?
Yeah, your dive log. and all
Yeah,
that?
it's somewhere in that bag.
You have
I
a
think-
dive table in there. You think?
No,
So I
I
can
don't
show it?
know. Here, while you're
Okay.
while
Well, let
I'm
me-
looking,
Let me
you can
look around.
explain.
So,
But yeah, just keep talking.
Essentially, what a dive table tells you, right? It will tell you what your bottom time is, right? And then, in a nutshell, your bottom time tells you, okay, tell you at X depth. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see one in here. Depending on your depth, it'll tell you the amount of time you can spend at that depth, right?
Okay.
Safely. In a nutshell, safely, right? You'll have a time limit. Like if you follow that table, right? You find your depth on the left-hand side and you follow it to the right. And it'll tell you the time, your bottom time, right? And so let's say you're at 120 feet, which is it's pretty damn
That's deep. Yeah.
Yeah, 120 feet. Your bottom time is going to be extremely limited because of the pressures, right? And because you are specifically diving on a single air, it's a mix of, I want to say it's 21% nitrogen, 79% oxygen. If I remember off the top of my head, 2179. I may be wrong. It's almost 2080, right?
Okay.
That's the mix that we have in our dive tanks.
Like in a regular tank.
Right. And so at depth, the deeper you go, the more nitrogen your body absorbs, right? And so what that basically says at 120 feet, I want to say it's less than 2 minutes, minute and a half, right? That's your bottom time. If you surpass that minute and a half, then you have to take additional, so you have to make additional stops.
As you go up, as you ascend?
As you ascend.
Yeah.
To make sure you have, make sure you rid your body of that, not totally rid, but, dilute the nitrogen that is being absorbed by your system, by your body, right? So that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. And so, like, I guess rewind a bit
So this
to
watch,
emphasize.
right? So let's say your maximum depth is 120 feet. That's as deep as you're going to go. You have 2 minutes, right? So right before you go in the water, let's say I'm going to go in the water. It's 3:15 now.
Okay.
You would set your dial to 3:15, right? So there it is. Set at 3:15. You have the little point,
Okay.
right, at 3:15. So once you ascend, you could use that as your reference. And once the minute hand, once you get down to 120 feet, right? Once the minute hand says 2 minutes, then you should start your ascent.
Oh, okay.
That's
So there's a real purpose for like that
Right.
little dial there.
Correct.
Because I guess a lot of people nowadays that buy dive watches, they're not even divers, huh?
This
I've
is
heard.
actually, they're called.
They don't even know what
They're desk divers, right? But
is that what they
you
call
would
them?
use this. You
Desk
would use
divers?
this to measure bottom time, right?
Okay.
And so you had two back before you were using dive computers. You basically had your dive table, and you would use that for planning purposes, and you had a dive watch, right? So once you got to the bottom, you set whatever. Let's say we got to the bottom, right, 120 feet, right at 3:15. Right, you'd set it for 3:15, and then, okay, you would know from looking at the table, right? I could
like how
spend
much time
2
you
minutes
could-
here,
Okay. Okay.
right? Without having, if I go over those 2 minutes, and guess what? We're going to have to plan additional safety stops. Right?
And what is that? Explain what a safety stop is.
All right, so when you're diving, you make let's say you're not diving very deep. It's just a casual, good old-fashioned, 40, 50 foot dive, right? It's a very easy-going dive, very relaxing. When you, at the end of that dive, you go to 15 feet, in between 15 20 feet, you're watching your dive computer, and you will stay there for 3 minutes, right? And you'll sit there 3 minutes at that depth to kind of, like I said, get the excess nitrogen out of your system before heading back to the boat, before ascending.
Because what happens if a diver just shoots right up?
So
There's several things that can happen.
right,
Huh?
yeah,
Which is bad,
You
obviously.
can develop nitrogen bubbles right in your system. One of those nitrogen bubbles ends up hitting your heart, kill you, hitting your brain, stroke.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh.
And so
yeah.
then also, if you ascend very quickly, you can also damage your lungs.
Yeah,
right?
because with the pressure, what
Right.
goes on?
And so that's really the whole reasoning that we go through this extensive training system when we,
Right.
when you learn how to scuba dive, you get these concepts, these basic concepts hammered into you. It's repetition. And so, you learn how to avoid those types of accidents. Now, I'm not saying that, diving is not it's not an extreme sport. Some people classify it as an extreme sport, but it really is an extreme sport as long as you follow the rules, right?
And you respect the water, you respect
the rule. Yeah, you
your
respect
movements.
You respect the environment you're diving in, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, if you just and and also, sometimes you can't get panicky.
Yeah.
Some people, like I said, it's a great sport as long as you're physically able to, if somebody does not like the water to begin with, if they get nervous going to the beach, right?
It's probably not for them.
They get nervous, going swimming in the beach, and it's definitely not for them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're somebody who's like, somebody like me, you and I, who, just really enjoy being in the water, and I've seen Jaws a whole bunch of times. I know I'm not on shark's menu,
Mm-hmm.
If I see a shark while I'm diving, you don't panic. You don't start swimming away. You don't start flailing. You don't
Don't freak out.
You don't freak out, right?
Have you ever seen a shark in any of your dives?
No. Well, wait, actually, yeah, I have. I've been to Epcot, and they have a program there that allows you to go diving in an aquarium.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
It's pretty neat. Yeah,
Oh.
and so it's a little about $200. It's a little bit expensive, but it's totally worth it. But when you go diving there, they have hammerhead sharks. You're diving along a hammerhead shark with the sharks, and you're diving with all these other species of shark. And I've never been bothered by the times that I did it.
Okay.
They swam along with you.
I didn't know. So Epcot offers that,
Mm-hmm.
where if you're a certified scuba diver, you can pay to scuba or dive in their tank.
Yep.
Wow.
I mean, you have to be very respectful of the environment, like I was saying. It's like if you're spearfishing, you have to be uber careful,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have sometimes, when you spear a fish, it's still flailing about, and sharks have the ability to pick up the sense the wounded fish, and
The vibrations of
the
that
vibrations and
fish.
whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's when attacks can happen. But for the most part, I mean, if you ever see a shark while you're diving, they're not going to bother you.
Yeah.
They might get curious. They
Right.
might, they might come check out and see what they know we're not on their menu.
Yeah. Now, how many different countries or areas have you dived? I guess in your diving career,
Well, so
because
when
you keep a logbook, right?
Yeah.
Of all your dives.
my first 4 dives. So I did my basic open water in New England, and so my first 4 dives were in the North Atlantic.
What?
Yeah, Cape Ann, Massachusetts. Yep.
That's pretty cold, huh?
So let's put it this way: I had to wear compared to the diving I do now, I had to wear a 7mm wetsuit from head to toe. Totally, I had to cover my hands.
Which is thick, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty thick.
And what's
It's
typical?
neoprene.
Okay, what's typical for like diving in the Gulf?
Diving in the Gulf, I mean,
You'd use what millimeter suit would you?
you really, I mean,
You don't
the
even
type
need a
of
suit,
diving,
huh?
yeah, rash guard. Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, some people wear like a really thin 3mm top or something like
Okay.
that. But that's actually a question I get asked a lot. People that go to Roatan, hey, well, what do you use in Roatan? No, rash guard,
Roatan?
a
Oh,
t-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. But in colder waters, obviously you want
Colder
to be
water,
insulated.
you need to be very well insulated. Yeah.
That's about
I mean-
7mm you use.
7mm. I mean, people go diving in what they call a dry suit, and dry suit essentially what that does is, what a wetsuit does is it absorbs the water. However, that water is absorbed by the suit itself and creates a layer of water that uses your own body heat to keep you comfortable while you're underwater, right?
Okay.
And so initially, when you're wearing that 7mm wetsuit, for a quick second, you'll feel that 55 degree water, right? You feel it in the back of your neck, and it's kind of a crappy feeling, right? It sucks, but after a quick second, the suit will create that warming layer, right? And that warmth. They'll use your own body heat to make the dive a lot more comfortable.
And so, what are some of the places that you've? What's the past tense of dive? Like dove?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not divin. I've divin. Yeah. So, what kind of countries or places have you?
Okay. Well, let's see.
have you dove?
Mexico. I've been diving in Mexico. Actually,
Where in Mexico?
before I even did my certification when I was about 33 years old.
Okay.
In New England, I actually very first time I ever went diving was in Puerto Vallarta. Was in the Pacific.
Okay.
And so Mexico was, in terms of after I got my certification, Mexico. I spent quite a bit of time there doing some diving. That is, like Cancun. Everything cool?
No, yeah, you're good.
Okay.
No, I'm just looking off. Yeah.
Yeah, Cancun. Cancun, Vallarta, Cabo San Lucas. I've been all the way up, in western part of Mexico and Belize.
How is that? Because that's like known as like a
That's a
a
diver's
diving
paradise.
mecca, huh?
Oh yeah, Belize.
Or like
is-
on one of like a diver's bucket list items is going to Belize.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would recommend Belize. Belize is fantastic. Now, the only downside of Belize is, Belize.
Because they have a famous like a famous spot, right? A landmark.
Blue
of
Hole.
sorts? Okay.
Yep.
Have you been there?
I never dove the Blue Hole.
Now what's that about? What's the Blue Hole?
So, Blue Hole is essentially it's a giant sinkhole. It's a sinkhole, right? And from up on the plane, you'll see like this giant blue circle. You'll know that's the Blue Hole.
It looks like a crater.
It looks like a crater. Yeah, it's really. It's supposedly it's a really good spot to dive. But I've also heard that, you're diving in the middle of a big giant blue hole. That sucker goes down really, really deep, real deep.
Yeah.
So, if you want to dive the Blue Hole, you have to stick to the edge of the reef, and you have to check out the edge of the reef along the Blue Hole
Okay.
to
Yeah.
actually see anything. Sometimes you really don't see crap. So I've heard from many divers who've done the Blue Hole, they really didn't see all that much.
Yeah, I'm just looking up right now while
So-
you're talking. So the Great Blue Hole is a marine sinkhole located off the coast of Belize.
Mhm.
It's about 43 miles from mainland Belize, but most visitors arrive by boat or helicopter from one of Belize's barrier islands.
Yep.
Hmm.
And so when I went to Belize, one of the things about Belize, I mean, don't get me wrong, that scuba diving was it was pretty damn good. And that is the beginning of the Mesoamerican reef system that I've become very familiar with. I've dove from the northern part of the Mesoamerican reef all the way down to Roatan, which is the southernmost point of the Mesoamerican reef. Mesoamerican reef, just for folks that don't know this, Mesoamerican reef is the second largest reef system behind the Great Barrier Reef.
Okay.
So, yeah, here in North America, we have, Central America, not too far from us, we have the second largest reef system in the entire world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right in our backyard.
Yep. I've also done a little bit of diving in Panama on the Pacific side, and been to Hawaii. I've dove both sides of the ocean.
Okay.
Did diving in Hawaii. Believe it or not, Hawaii. You would think, oh man, nice warm water. It's pretty chilly.
Really?
Yeah, you would. Think
Yeah, I would have
nice,
assumed. I've never been to
super warm
Hawaii.
water. Yeah, it can get pretty chilly.
Huh.
Yeah, I remember I went in there when I went diving in Hawaii. Yeah, and I went in with a rash guard, and thinking it was this won't be all that bad. It was a bit chilly. Yeah, I wish I would have brought a a dive top and neoprene wetsuit or something like at least 3 millimeters, because yeah.
Huh.
But
So
what I was getting at though,
yeah.
in terms of price, Belize is really pretty. In terms of price, I mean, a lot of these places are be very, 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 very pricey.
This
Very
is
pricey.
not a cheap.
It's not
hobby
a
to
cheap
get into,
hobby,
right.
yeah. Unless you go to certain dive destinations. I mean,
Right.
I've heard of, Roatan. Roatan, that's, and I believe we're going to be speaking to Liana, who
Yeah.
owns Jackson Dive Center, right? We'll be speaking to her momentarily. That's $30 a dive. That's pretty darn cheap.
So before we
Compared-
get into like the Roatan,
Sure.
let's maybe kind of go back. If someone wants to get involved in scuba diving, they're interested now. what are some of the things or steps needed to do this?
Okay. Well,
So can I, if anyone,
yeah.
can anyone just like get a dives, their setup and
Again,
just jump in?
yeah. I mean, you have to be in. You don't have to be in freaking, awesome physical shape,
Right.
right? I mean, I've heard of 80-year-olds getting into this hobby and
Doing well.
and doing well, right? But I mean, you can't have certain medical issues, like let's say you have asthma, right? Or asthma is kind of a
Prohibitive kind of
prohibitive, yeah. And so asthma, but
heart issues, I'm sure.
yep, if you've had a history of like heart attacks and stuff like that, probably not a good idea. But as I was saying, if you're in pretty darn good physical shape, you don't have to be in great physical shape, right? This isn't called the lazy man's hobby for nothing. If you're in pretty decent physical shape and you just absolutely enjoy being in the water, then I would say, I always tell people, is like before you decide to take the next step to get certified, take what's called a Discover Scuba course. And so a Discover Scuba course is basically, it's a crash course with a dive master or a dive instructor. And you, it's a few hours where you go over the basics before you ever go to a reef, right? Depending on the dive shop, if it's a dive shop that doesn't have a pool and has, access to water, they'll take you to a shallow part of, of beach or whatever, right? And you'll go over the absolute basics, how to clear your mask, how to, don't have you take off your mask, put it back on, clear it. What I mean by clearing mask is, getting the water out of your mask, right?
Yeah, because sometimes the water might rush in.
Correct.
And there's a technique.
How to use your backup regulator, right? How to share with a diver who has run out of air. Basics like that. You go over the basics, and the dive instructor or the dive master will measure your your confidence in in the water before, and then if you ended up really enjoying that, if they see that you can handle being underwater and scuba diving and you're able to clear your ears, that's a big part of it too, right? If they see that you're able to do all that stuff, then you go and you'll do a couple dives, right? Usually it's like a 2-tank dive, and you'll just go to a regular reef, a really shallow reef, and go scuba diving. And you're under the watchful eye of a dive instructor or a dive master.
Okay.
And so,
but what
you
about
start
like
off with that?
Okay.
Right. And then if you really end up enjoying it, and if you think you're really comfortable underwater, then you go to the next step. You do your basic open water. And so your basic open water, depending on where you go, if you go here in New Orleans, it's going to cost you a few, I would say about $500-$600. I'm not entirely too sure what the pricing is. I don't want to speak to any local dive shops, right? But it's pretty darn expensive compared to, let's say, getting certified in like, let's say, Roatan, right?
Okay.
It can be Roatan can be a lot cheaper. So you'll do your basic open water. You can complete the basic open water at your own pace. What some folks say is, what some folks advise, and I tell people this all the time, is there is a course study, right? There's a book study, and then there's a in-depth, hands-on, where you're using the equipment, familiarizing yourself with the equipment, right? So there's two portions of the class. So the study portion, the book portion, you can actually do that online. I know Patty, P-A-D-I, Patty offers an online course, and you can do that at your own pace. Take the final exam, have that ready to go, and that way, when you reach your final dive destination, all you have to do is, once you're ready to be certified, then you'll do the hands-on portion with the equipment, right? And so you do your 4 dives. So you'll do your 4 dives, and then you'll get your certification, your basic open water.
Yeah. And then from that, you get this like card that's basically it's a certification that you take with you anywhere in the world
Right.
to like the local scuba diving
Right.
shop.
You can
or
dive
operation.
anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the world now. There's also limitations at basic open water, right? There's limitations as to depth. Basic open water, if I remember correctly, you can't go deeper than 60 feet, if I remember off the top of my head. And so I always tell people this. If, you really want to get into the sport, do the Discover Scuba. See how you like it. See if you're comfortable. If you're somebody to begin with who's comfortable with scuba diving and you enjoy it, go for it. Do it.
Yeah.
You're physically able to do it. Go for it. I mean, there's, from what I understand, I believe there's, not physically disabled, but handicapped folks that are able to participate in the hobby.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So even if you live in Nebraska, in the middle of nowhere, there should be a dive shop somewhere where they can teach you and kind of walk you through these steps, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, you don't have to be like you don't have to live in Florida or on the coast or any body of water.
And there's also various organizations. There's two or three organizations that I know of that you can certify. You can get certified. SSI, I got certified by both Patty and SSI, and there's one more. NACI, I think, is the third one.
Oh, so these are like the governing bodies that
these
have
are
like
governing
these
bodies
standards?
that'll issue the certifications, correct?
Yeah.
And then there's various different levels of certification. Like you and I, we have, step number 2, advanced open water, right? Advanced open water, like I was saying, basic open water, you have limitations as to how deep you can do, go, what type of diving you can participate in. Advanced open diving, that is the highest, one of the highest certifications that you can get for recreational diving. That's what you and I do, right? So after that, you have Dive Master, Rescue Diver, then Dive Master, right? Once you start obtaining Rescue Diver, then Dive Master, that's almost like a professional.
Almost professional?
No, it is. It's professional. You're doing it as a job.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you hear about these people who are divers for like the oil companies, right?
Oh, those guys.
Like, what is that about? Like, why would they dive in that industry?
Whew. That's a whole different ballgame.
That's like even more like higher
the training
level.
for that is extensive. I mean, that goes beyond what you and I are doing, right?
Because remember, we met this guy in Seville. Were you there? We met this guy. He was like one of these professional divers, and he would work on these rigs.
Yeah, those guys
in Europe.
Yeah,
but they go like deep. Huh?
Oh yeah, they go extremely. They go really, really deep beyond what you and I are used to. Right? They're facing way different water pressures, totally different environment. Pitch black, water is extremely cold.
Yeah, real dangerous.
Your work, it can be dangerous work. Yeah, I mean, that's commercial diving. That's a whole different animal.
Yeah,
whole different animal.
So like what you do. People like you and I do is what's considered like recreational diving.
We do it I mean, we are professional.
Well,
divers.
we treat it like
we're professional divers. However, we're certified divers. However, yes, it's recreational. We're not doing this as a job.
Correct? Yeah.
Right. Once you get to.
So, what are some of the, I guess, benefits of taking it to that next level, that advanced open water? What are some of the things that we had to do?
Oh, well,
to I guess pass. Water, and get that certification.
So for advanced open water, what was really neat is like you had a underwater navigation portion of it. You had a deep dive portion where we had to go deeper than 75 feet, right? So the deep dive is a required part of the advanced open water.
Okay.
Right.
And what does deep mean?
So deep for advanced open water is 75 feet or further. I think. When you did yours, you did it at 107 feet, if I remember correctly.
I think it was 102.
102
was the deepest I went. Yeah.
Yeah.
And people always, I'm sure that's like a question that people who are curious about diving, they'll ask you like, "Oh, how far have you, or how deep have you gone?"
Recreational dive, the recreational dive limit for us is either 120 or 130 feet. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's 120.
Yeah, I think it is 120. I think you're right. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a question I get asked all the time.
Yeah. But what's the thing? Like, it's not a matter of like how far you can like how deep you can dive, because the trade-off with that is that you don't have a lot of time to stay underwater because of that intense pressure.
To get back to what I was talking about earlier, bottom time.
Okay.
The deeper you go, the less
time you have, yeah.
Because of the water pressure, right? So think of it this way: the dive tanks that we're using, you either use what's called aluminum 80, right? I think it's 80 cubic inches or 80 cubic feet. I don't remember. But it's called aluminum 80. You either use an aluminum 80. That's what 99.9% of the dive shops have is aluminum tanks, or you have a steel tank, right? I don't really see steel tanks all that often. I can't say I've ever used a steel tank. But anyways, to get back to what I was saying, that aluminum tank, think about it this way. Yeah, it may be a big old heavy aluminum tank, but as you go deeper, think about what happens to things under pressure. If I were to take this plastic cup, go down to about 60 feet, or this bottle, go down to about 60 feet. This little cup right here would shrink in size. It'd be a small little cup. It would shrink in size because it would compress because of the pressure. Now, the same thing happens to the volume inside of an air tank, right? So the deeper you go, let's say you get the recreational dive limits, like on 120 feet, let's say you go that deep, the volume of air inside that tank will start to compress because of the pressures, because of the atmospheres, right, that you're experiencing at that depth. So what happens, the volume of air shrinks, you have less air in your tank, theoretically, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And plus, I mean, think about the stresses that are on your body at super deep depths.
And what are some of the things that can happen to the body at those, I guess, really extreme depths? Isn't there like a psychosis that happens with some people?
Nitrogen narcosis. You're thinking nitrogen narcosis. And
okay.
And that typically happens when you are using, the regular air mixture. You have different air mixtures that you can use, right? You have nitrox. Nitrox is becoming pretty popular, right? That is nitrox, if I remember correctly, that is EAN 30. I think that was like 30. What it was.
So is that like a higher blend of what?
A higher blend of
It's like enriched with what?
It's enriched with nitrogen.
More nitrogen?
More nitrogen, yeah. Okay. It's a higher percentage of nitrogen.
And what's the purpose of using that?
No, hold on. Higher. No.
Yeah, I'll look that up.
EAN 30. Well, it makes it reduces the amount of nitrogen that is being absorbed by your body, so it would be more oxygen.
What's so it'd be more. Nitrox? It'd be more.
No, it would be less nitrogen being reduced.
You're right. So nitrox is a gas mixture that contains more oxygen and less nitrogen than air. Right. It's primarily used in scuba diving to reduce the amount of nitrogen in the breathing gas mixture.
What's the mixture, though? What's the percentage? It's
okay. So
20.
Nitrox refers to any gas mixture composed of nitrogen and oxygen. This includes atmospheric air, which is approximately 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 1% other gases, primarily argon.
Yep.
In the usual application underwater diving, nitrox is normally distinguished from air and handled differently.
So nitrox.
It basically, but the whole purpose is that increased decompression limits.
Yep.
AKA more dive time.
Bottom time, correct. Yep.
So one of the main reasons divers use nitrox is the allowance for longer dive times.
Yep.
Okay.
And
I've never used that. Have you ever used that?
I've never used it either. No, I've always just used regular air. But yeah, nitrox. It's becoming more popular, and supposedly one of the benefits of using nitrox is after you do your dive, supposedly you feel less tired. That's what they say. I typically don't feel all that exhausted after getting a dive, but I mean, I've heard from some people who dive primarily with nitrox that they feel, less exhausted after doing a couple dives. They feel a bit better.
And is it true, and you really don't want to dive, obviously, when you're drunk or any other, conditions like that. But let's say you dive and you have a hangover. Doesn't supposedly after that dive it helps, sober you up even more or get rid of the hangover?
Yes, that's the story.
Is that a story? Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say story. Based on personal experiences, I can say yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're enriching your blood, I guess, more with oxygen, huh?
Yep. Yeah, it clears your mind.
Yeah.
So, but I don't advise people to
Right, to do
dive
that.
after a hangover. That's
Right.
yeah.
And then
But you were getting you were getting to nitrogen narcosis, right?
Oh yeah.
Nitrogen narcosis. That ends up happening. That's basically, as you dive deeper, you absorb more nitrogen, right? As I was saying, that's regular, standard air that folks dive with.
Mm-hmm.
At certain depths, and this can happen anywhere. That's why you do the deep dives, right? Certain depths. Some people experience it at 75 feet. Some people don't experience it until they get way beyond recreational dive limits, 165 feet. You start feeling giddy. You almost feel intoxicated.
Whoa.
Yeah. Because of the nitrogen that's being absorbed by your brain, by your body.
Yeah.
You'll start feeling kind of getting drunk, kind of a little bit drunk. But the easy way to get rid of nitrogen narcosis is by ascending slowly, right? Once you start to ascend slowly, then your body starts to, shed some of that excess nitrogen.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the hardware. So someone gets their open water certification or is going to do those open water tests.
Mm-hmm.
What's some of the equipment about?
And so you're going to become very, very familiar. Okay, like I said, when you're doing the open water, you have your book part and then you have your hands-on part where you're actually getting familiar with the equipment, you're using it, they're teaching you how to use the equipment, so on and so forth. So in order to survive underwater, we need a system. A system that will allow us to breathe underwater. And then that's essentially, in a nutshell, what we have here in front of us, sans the scuba tank. However, all of this equipment that we have here, right, all this equipment that we have here connects to the dive tank.
Okay. So this first piece that you're
what I have here, this is actually
here. I can help. You want me to help you out?
No, I got it. So what you have here. What you have here is your regulators, right? You have this is atomic regulator. Actually, your regulator is kind of awesome because the Z2 is made for cold water diving. They accidentally, when I went and bought this, they accidentally sent this to me.
Oh wow, that's more expensive.
I had originally ordered another Atomic Z2. That's a damn good company. I had ordered another Atomic Z2, just a regular version for warm water, for warm water diving, and they ended up sending me the cold water version.
Okay.
But essentially, what this does, this connects to your tank, right? This very top portion. I don't want to take off. This is dust cover right here.
Okay.
This dust cover, right? You would have to remove that and basically screw this onto. This is called a yoke.
Okay.
Right? You'd have to screw this onto the scuba tank, right? Once you have it clamped down, you would connect this. Let's bring this up real quick.
Yeah, no worries. So basically, you're bringing up this like vest looking device of sorts.
This device, this is what's called a buoyancy control device, or a BCD for short. Yeah, you want to hold that up? Can you bring it? You got it. Okay. So your buoyancy control device that's essentially it's got bladders on the inside of the vest, right? And it's got bladders on the inside of it, and those bladders, again, this is connected to your tank. This hose right here. Hold on a sec. All right, this hose right here in particular, this clamps on to right here, this portion of the hose, this portion of the vest, right?
Okay.
So what this allows, this takes air from the tank and fills in these bladders, right? You can fill them up, and then you can use these two buttons to regulate your buoyancy, right? So it uses air to regulate your buoyancy. You got these two buttons right here. Red one fills it up. Top one, as you are descending in order to get underwater, right? You're going to be pressing this down, and you'll see the bubbles. You'll see the air escape through this. This also a mouthpiece, right? Allows you to orally inflate the vest, but you will start to see the bubbles come out of this portion of this hose right here, and so that will allow you to descend. Right? You press this. You don't want to press this until you're at the surface, right? You don't want to press this while you're in the middle of a dive.
That's that red button, yeah.
Because that will inflate. That'll inflate the vest. And if you inflate it too much, you'll shoot up to the top.
Okay.
Right? But in a nutshell, this vest allows you to regulate your buoyancy. Right? Once you really get in the hang of it, you start figuring out, okay, I need X amount of weight, right? You have weight pockets in here on the side. These are integrated into the vest itself, right? You can pull these weight pockets out.
So yeah, that's where the actual weight is, huh?
Correct. You store the weight inside these pockets right here. And so once you start to get the hang of things, you start figuring out, okay, this amount of weight allows me to become what's called neutrally buoyant, right? And so that's when you're scuba diving, you want to make sure you are neutrally buoyant. Neutrally buoyant means you are in the middle of the water column, right? You're able to swim comfortably. You're able to dive comfortably without, touching the bottom or,
Like you're almost hovering,
you're
right?
You're hovering, correct.
It's like just neutral.
You want to be
yeah,
weightless,
yeah.
neutrally buoyant, right? So that's really the goal of this piece of equipment, is to help you remain neutrally buoyant while you're diving in the water column, right? So then you have your regulator. This is first stage, right? Right here, very top. This goes, the first stage connects to the tank itself. And the first stage, what essentially this is doing, it is reducing the PSI, reducing the pressure of the air in the tank, because the air in the tank is at a very high pressure.
Okay.
Right? It's reducing the amount of pressure in the tank and turning it into breathable air, which allows you to both inhale and exhale, right? You inhale and exhale using your second stage regulator. These second stage regulators, actually, if you were to pop this open, it's really not that complex piece of equipment. It's fairly simple.
Okay.
And it's essentially a diaphragm, right?
Okay.
A valve that closes and opens depending on your pattern of breathing. And that's one of the things that they teach you. It's like, all right, A, don't hold your breath on while you're diving on this. Don't ever hold your breath. Breathe naturally. Breathe in a calm manner. Mm-hmm. Right. Also, at the same time, when you're diving, don't
like too fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't breathe through too fast. A lot of beginner divers, when they're learning, they'll go through air like that. They'll go through air because they're getting the hang of it. They don't know how to.
Do you think they're nervous when they do that?
I mean, a lot of times, yeah, that's what it is. They're a little nervous. They're inexperienced. But once you get the hang of it, you start adopting. You start adopting this routine, this diving routine. You start knowing, okay, this is the amount of weight that I need in my vest to remain neutrally buoyant. So I'm not sitting there dragging along the bottom. Unfortunately, hold on a sec.
Got to get that puff in.
Mm-hmm.
Nurture the cigar.
So unfortunately, when you're first starting off, a lot of these dive shops, they'll put on a lot of weight. It will be like 16 pounds, and you'll be just dragging along the bottom. I'm not entirely too sure what they do that, but as you progress, right, you start diving more and more and more. You start shedding that. Get rid of that excess weight. You start figuring out, okay, this is how much weight I need. This is, this is where you also have different places where you can position your weights to help you maintain that neutral buoyancy underwater, right?
Because remember, I guess salt water naturally, like especially for bigger people, like you don't sink, right? It keeps you up, and so for people like me, I need more weight to like bring me down to lower depths, huh?
Correct.
Yeah,
this
what's
piece
that
of
piece?
equipment right here, this is extremely, extremely important. So, the bottom portion of this
it looks
gauge,
like a gauge.
this is what's called a submersible pressure gauge, or in short, SPG.
Okay.
Everything has an acronym that we use. Now, your SPG tells you two things. Well, this one has three things. One, and this is extremely important, and I'll tell divers who are just starting out, always check how much air you have in your tank throughout the dive.
Seems basic, but important. Yeah.
That's why I say you start adopting all of these, all of these habits as you dive more and more. So usually when you dive, as you can tell, this has all the way at 5,000 psi. When we go diving, that should say 3,000 psi. That's usually how much air we have in the tank, about 3,000 psi.
Okay.
So 3,000 psi, right? That tells you how much air. Now, depending on depth, if you're like at 30, 40 feet, if you're doing a nice little shallow dive and you're an experienced diver, that 3,000 psi, that'll last you a long, long time, a good bit, over an hour.
Wow.
Yeah, easily over an hour. If you have your breathing down right, you're very comfortable in the water, you're neutrally buoyant.
You're not exerting a lot.
You're not exerting a lot. Yeah, you can take that 3,000 psi, go diving for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
For over an hour, right? So you're constantly checking your PSI. This number here in the bottom, that's actually temperature gauge. That tells you how the temperature of the water.
Okay.
And then this one at the very top, very, very important as well. This tells you your depth. Now, nowadays, we have dive computers. Dive computers have revolutionized diving in the sense that you no longer really, it's good to, and they're going to train you how to use dive tables. Remember how I was, mentioning dive tables earlier. But really dive tables, they teach you how to use them because, hey, let's say you forget this, then you got to go back to the old way of doing things.
Like doing the analog,
dive watch, doing analog.
Yeah.
So it's, with anything, it's good to learn, the analog way of doing stuff.
Yeah, just in case like a problem arises with that dive computer.
Because you have a watch battery, and sometimes that watch battery. I've had one of these, and my watch battery ended up getting flooded.
Are you serious? Yeah. It goes out on you during the middle of a session?
It went dead, and so I was like, damn.
Oh, no.
So basically, if this goes out and you don't have a backup, guess what? Your dive's over. So your ass.
But that backup is this SPG, huh?
That backup is this, yes, and a dive watch.
And a dive watch, yeah.
Yep. And the dive tables.
Yeah.
But this dive computer, it uses an algorithm, basically tell you, okay, remember how we were talking about no decompression dive limits, NDL?
Yeah.
No decompression dive limits, NDL, right? Your NDL basically says, okay, this is, depending on the depth, and they'll tell you on this is how much time I can spend at this depth without having to do additional safety stops.
Yeah.
Right? And so sometimes when you go deep, like let's say you go over 130 feet, you're going to have
like a few minutes?
2 minutes, less than 2 minutes of NDL, no decompression time limit, right? I think it's a minute, 2 minutes, something like that. It's very, very little, right?
So that's a trade-off of doing a deep dive, right?
Right.
Is that you don't have a lot of time.
Remember how I was saying you absorb nitrogen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what this will tell you is, let's say you do a deep dive, right? That's okay. Let's say you go over at 2 minutes. No big deal. This dive computer say, hey, you have to stop at 60 feet for about a minute or two.
Oh, it tells you to kind of hover at that depth?
Yep, stay at that
depth. So you're
depth.
doing like step by step.
If you go over to NDL, right?
I see. Okay.
Some of these will tell you automatically to do a deep dive stop.
Yeah. It's amazing. That dive computer, when I first saw that, it's just amazing how it can tell you like everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the depth that you're at, like
Tells you the depth, tells you the water
yeah.
temperature. Yeah, it tells you if you're ascending too fast.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a little bit too conservative, but I mean, the dive computer will tell you, will start beeping
Yeah.
if you're going up too fast. And as I was saying earlier, it's like you never want to ascend too quickly because of the injuries you can sustain if you let's say you shoot up.
Yeah.
You can sustain some fairly serious injuries, right? But
Yeah.
this dive computer will tell you, hey, you need to slow down a little bit.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. Apologize about.
Oh, no, we're back.
Break.
We are
Yep.
back.
Yep. Yeah. I was visibly shaking. I was like,
You got cold in here, huh?
Oh, yeah. Nature's thermometers were probably showing through.
Exactly.
They probably still are showing through. I don't know. We'll see. Anyhow, where did we leave off? We're talking about dive computers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, hold on a sec.
Get you a little coffee. If you need another cigar, I'm going to get to number 2. So I had the double Corona, which was really good. I like the double Corona format. I think I'm going to go with, I don't think I've ever had the Gordo size. I don't really like a larger ring gauge. What's like the largest ring gauge you like?
Definitely keep it under 60.
Yeah.
And, and I'm not fond of the larger ring gauges, but yeah, keep it under 60.
Yeah.
And
I'll try a 60 every once in a while
Yeah.
because that is actually the second best selling size in our shops. And
Oh,
I'm
really?
pretty sure like within the industry.
oh,
Yeah.
no shit.
Yeah. I feel like our shops are kind of a good barometer. We're like in the middle of the bell curve with a lot of data points and all.
Hey, we know somebody who likes those thick ring gauges.
No, not anymore. It doesn't like the 60s as much.
Yeah. I'd go bullshit on that one.
Uh-oh, he's gonna after he listens to you, he's gonna message you like, I don't. But no, I mean, look, the 60, it's not to make fun of people who like 60 ring gauges or larger. I mean, dude, we have some people that like the 70 ring gauges, the 80 ring gauges.
Oh, there's a big old boy that, if I remember correctly, I saw a 90 ring gauge.
Yep.
Yeah,
we even
he's-
have a 10 by 100. I'll show you that before you leave.
That's insane.
I know.
That's insane.
Yeah, but look, everyone unto each his own.
Exactly.
But I don't do a 60 ring gauge because I'm like you. I like it a little bit. I like it anywhere from like no more than like a 54. That's kind of pushing it. 52 is like my max. But I do got to try and revisit some of these larger ones because we do sell so much of them.
Yeah.
But the Robusto for us is still the best seller. Then it's the 6x60
Well,
format.
I mean, I remember when you and I first started smoking. I mean, shortly after high school. Well, no, it was around high school.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after high school, when we first started smoking cigars. Let's see. I remember short stories. The Hemingway by Arturo Fuentes. Short stories were just like, yeah, that is
It's a good standard.
CAO Italia, CAO Brasilia, Brazil.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Then I remember us
Enjoying
smoking those. Yep. But yeah, I mean, I want to say that the cigar that we first started smoking was a Hemingway, not the short story, but the Arturo Fuente Hemingway.
Well, the short stories part of the Hemingway series.
Yep.
That's just a particular size.
What
The
was
next
name
step
of
up
it,
is
though?
the bestseller.
It was
Then
a
there's a
Robusto.
work.
It was
Well-
a Robusto. It was Arturo Fuente was a Robusto.
Well, that must have been maybe the Don Carlos. Because in the Hemingway lines, look, here are the sizes in the Arturo Fuente Hemingway line, which is one of their best sellers. It's Cameroon wrapper, Dominican filler mostly. The smallest is a short story.
Yep.
And then the next step up is the bestseller. And then the work of art is kind of like a bestseller, but the work of art has kind of like a more tapered, not torpedo point, but like more of a taper. Then the signature is a 6x48. The classic is a 7x48 also. Now I got to think what the ring gauges are on those. But I know the signature is 6 inches. Classic is 7 inches. The masterpiece is, I think, is a 9-inch. Then they have like other like Untold Story. Then you have your Maduros. Your between the lines, their barber pole. But they don't have a Robusto in that line.
Okay.
If it's a Robusto, it might be the Don Carlos because the Don Carlos band kind of is similar.
Yeah.
But the Don Carlos is blended a little bit stronger, just slightly. And they have your traditional shapes like the Robusto, Churchill. They do have a number 2, which is a torpedo. They do have a bellicosa, which is a more rounded, tapered. But yeah, if it's a Robusto name, it's not the Hemingway series. It's got to be the Don Carlos, maybe.
It might be the Don Carlos.
Yeah.
Well,
I know.
anyways,
I say it the English, the gringo accent, just because I feel like silly when I say like the Spanish Don Carlos.
Man, you shouldn't feel silly. I tell you all the time, practice your Spanish, dude, and don't feel, feel more confident. Who cares if you mispronounce something? Who cares? I mean, that's how you learn. I mean, to this day, my mom is always correcting me. If I don't know the word for something in particular, I always ask my mom, and and she'll correct me. And man, there's definitely no harm in that, and you shouldn't feel embarrassed.
Yeah,
embarrassed because that's how you learn a language. You learn a language. Unfortunately, you learn a language through
immersion.
Immersion.
Trying.
You mess up sometimes.
But yeah, going back to the dive watches.
Yes, going back to the dive watch. So nowadays, we've kind of gone away from the analog. And we've started using, as I mentioned earlier, dive watches. And your dive watches, they'll tell you everything you need to know. It'll tell you your no decompression limits. It'll tell you your depth. It'll tell you your temperature of the water. It'll tell you how long you've been in the water. And it's pretty much, this is a very, very, very easy piece of equipment to use. But it's also very, very, very important, in a ways. This is your lifeline, your
safety.
For
tool,
safety.
huh?
It's a very important safety tool. And so that is why, you have to make sure that your equipment, if you own this equipment, is in proper working order. That's why every year you're going to want to make sure your first and your second stage are fully operational. You should be getting those inspected and maintained on an annual basis, right?
Yeah, definitely worth it.
It's definitely, yeah.
I mean, your life is at risk,
right?
And how much is like an annual inspection? I don't remember paying that much.
Yeah, it's
much.
Not a whole month,
like
that much.
$50 maybe, if that. Or
yep. I mean, if you know what you're doing, you can do all that stuff yourself too. But I leave it up to the professionals. Someone who knows what they're doing. I mean, I know how this equipment works, and I know that the it's a very simple mechanism, right? Those regs are, like I was saying, it's basically all it is essentially a valve that opens and closes, right? The rubber valve, right? That opens and closes as you inhale and exhale. That's what it is in a nutshell. It's a very, very simple piece of equipment, but you don't want that very simple piece of equipment to fail you in the middle of a dive, because A, that could put your life at risk, and B, that will end your dive.
So what happens like something catastrophic happens and you gotta like shoot up? Don't they put people in like these like chambers? What is that?
So something catastrophic. First of all, that's why you get trained to avoid those catastrophic events. Let's say for some odd reason you get what's called a free flow, and the free flow that'll happen on your regulator, right? And that is where the air will just come out consistently, right? Right. So when you're inhaling and exhaling, it's like almost like you're inhaling and exhaling.
Just regular, yeah.
Right. So regular breathing pattern. But sometimes that will continuously leak air, right? And you won't be able to inhale and exhale. You won't be able to stop it, right? That's called a free flow. Now they train you if you do happen to have a free flow. What you do is you essentially stick the mouthpiece in the side here, and you sip the air.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you exhale.
Yeah.
But in those types of situations, that's why you should always be diving with a friend.
Yeah.
You always have a dive buddy. That's one of the system protocols, right? You have a dive buddy. And if you're in that type of situation, if you're separated from your dive buddy, which happens, right? So you have a free flow. Remember from your training, stick stick the regulator in the corner of your mouth and start sipping that air until you find your friend, if you're separated from him. If your friend's close by, then that's right. If your friend's close by, you would give them a hand signal.
Yeah, and I forgot about the hand signals, yeah.
Yeah. You would give them a hand signal to use their octopus. That's called octopus, right?
Okay.
And so you would start sharing. This is not for you, by the way. This is for your dive buddy, right? In case they run out of air, or they run out of the air, or they have a free flow problem with the regulator, right? You go to your buddy and you give them the hand signal to start sharing air, right? And so you would essentially start breathing off their apparatus, and you would make a safety stop, right? At that point,
yeah, the dive's over. You got to go.
The dive's over. You have to go to 15 to 20 feet, right? Whatever your dive computer will tell you which depths you have to do your safety stop. You go to do your safety stop for 3 minutes, and both of you head to the top. Your dive's over at that point, right? Mm-hmm. So this backup system. It's not for you. It's for your dive buddy. But that's one of the things that they teach you. And low air, right? That's essentially what that means. Low air. Half tank. That's T.
Okay.
Right? Safety stop.
Is the 3 fingers?
3 fingers on top, yeah. Right? And then to measure how much air you have, right? Basically, you'll have somebody your dive buddy, right? If he's an experienced diver, you're not really going to check on him all that much. But, if somebody you've dove with, frequently, you'll do this signal. And that means check your SPG. That means, how much air do you have left, essentially, right? And so what you use is, let's say you have 2,500 or 1,500 SPI. 1,500 SPI, that's half a tank.
Oh, PCI? Yeah.
PSI, sorry.
PSI, yeah.
Oh, what did I say?
SPI.
Jesus.
Yeah, too much nitrix.
PSI.
Yeah.
So 1,500 PSI, right? You can do that 2 ways. Half tank, because half of 3,000, 1,500 PSI, you can do half tank, or you can do 1,500, 1, 2, 300, 400, 500, right? So you can go 1,000.
So this is 1,000
Yep.
plus whatever.
Yeah, 500.
Yeah, in
Or
hundreds.
600, 700, 800.
Oh, okay.
Yep, 900, right?
And of course, the universal.
Okay. Yep.
Everything's okay. Good.
Yep. And so, you have different hand signals, right, to communicate underwater, because you can't really speak while you're underwater.
Right. Yeah, you can't talk underwater.
Yep.
Do they have microphones now well, I guess you really can't even do that, huh? You'd have to be in the...
I mean, commercial diving helmets, yeah. They
do?
Mm-hmm. They have commercial diving helmets, I believe, have some sort of communication system. Yeah. Oh. Yep. I'm fairly sure they do. Yeah. But for our purposes, I mean, you have 2 ways of communicating. So really, hand signals, or, writing tablet. But really not too many people carry tablets with them, right, that I've seen.
So they have actual underwater tablets you can write underwater with?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep.
Now, you were telling me something during the break about the dive watches.
Oh, so dive computers. This is this is a Mari's Puck Pro number 2, right? And this is a good all around, even experienced divers like using these a lot. This is a very good, no nonsense dive computer. It tells you what you need, it tells you what you need to have a comfortable dive. Now, there are more expensive systems, just like with any other hobby, right? There are more expensive dive computers out there on the market today that are actually integrated with your air tank. They have dive computers that actually connect to your dive tank and that give you the ability that tells you everything you need to know. So with just a regular dive computer, it won't tell you how much air you have left in your system, right? you have to actually physically use the old analog.
Yeah, because it's
to check
directly
air.
connected to the tank.
Right. But with some of these more advanced systems that connect to your air tank, it'll tell you how much air you have left in your tank, what your consumption rate is. I mean, it gets into the nitty gritty. It, tells you water temperature. You can, you can set this to be as conservative or as liberal as you want in terms of, diving. Right?
Can I get a moderate one? Sorry, dad joke.
I always tell people just don't mess with that. Just,
Right.
With this one
Maris
too.
is a really good company, huh?
Yeah, it's a very good company.
Yeah,
Spanish
Maris.
company.
Yeah. Oh, it's Spanish?
Mm-hmm. Maris. Yep.
Okay. Mares.
Mares.
Yeah.
Yep. And so this one too, it gives you the ability, let's say you're diving with nitrox. You can set this. You can set the air type to nitrox on
Oh,
this.
cool.
And so once you set it to nitrox, then it changes. Like it changes all of the changes the what was the word I was using earlier? It changes all the variables and whatnot.
Okay.
Yeah, in the dive computer.
Oh, I see.
But yeah, some of the more integrated systems, some more advanced systems are just really, really neat. Tells you air consumption, tells you depth, tells you everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Tells you, you can, plug and play, bring it back to your house. Once you get back to your place, you can plug it in the computer. It tells you, gives you a graph.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. But those cost...
Kind of like recreating the conditions that went during that
Yeah.
dive. Yeah.
But those cost about $1,000 plus, whereas this is about $200 and a little over $200.
Okay.
Yeah. This is more economical and tells you exactly what you need to know. And so I always, this is all I really need.
Yeah.
I'd like to get one of those, but $1,000.
Yeah, it's an investment.
Mm-hmm.
So let's pivot to one of the dive sites. Probably one of your favorite places is Roatan.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me about Roatan? Where is it? What's it about?
So I'd mentioned earlier about the Mesoamerican Reef. Roatan is at the southernmost portion of the Mesoamerican Reef.
Mm-hmm.
Roatan is, I know I mentioned earlier, Belize, Mexico, Panama, Hawaii. Well, let me tell you something. Great places to dive. Hawaii, I was kind of sort of. It was all right. I wasn't exactly too impressed with Hawaii. Panama wasn't bad. It was pretty cool. Don't get me wrong. It was nice. But thing about those places, Belize and all that, right? You have to take a boat, and you have to take a boat whenever you go on a dive trip. For the most part, you can do shore dives, right? That's depending on where you're at. A little bit more on that later. But what's really cool about Roatan is the price that you pay to go diving there. Liana mentioned it was $30, $30 for 10 dives or $300. Let me tell you something. Hawaii, I believe I paid $150 for 2-tank dive. Almost, yeah, it was really
$150
expensive.
for two?
$150, yeah, for 2 dives. For 2-tank dive, meaning, 2 different spots.
Yeah.
And it was nice and all. It was pretty cool, but
The value.
another thing is the value is just out of this world.
Yeah.
Right?
In Roatan.
And for Roatan, it doesn't have the diversity, the biological diversity that Roatan has. What's really neat about Roatan is just the amount of sea life, and that's really one of the reasons. That's, if not the main reason you go diving, is to experience all the different sea life and to see it firsthand, right? Roatan. When I go diving in Roatan, I will see anywhere between. I'll see just about every dive. I'll always spot a sea turtle, right? You'll get pretty close to the damn sea turtles too. You can get close to them, and there's certain dive sites in Roatan where you'll see spotted eagle rays. Just the amount of diverse sea life there is just unbelievable. Then you can do night dives in Roatan, which are really neat because you see bioluminescence, and bioluminescence is basically, when it gets dark, a whole nother set of life comes out to play.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. comes
That you wouldn't see during
that
the
you
day.
wouldn't see during the day, right? You'll see squid, and they'll put on this beautiful little light show at night. It's pitch dark. It's really, really neat.
So these are animals that emit their own light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And bioluminescence. I mean, that's like plankton. Yeah, and it's plankton. And there's been night dives. There's been one of the coolest things that I've seen was what they call a string of pearls. And so a string of
What's
pearls.
that?
So basically, essentially, it's this long bioluminescence that are kind of like connected together. It looks like a green string of pearls.
What?
Right? Yeah, it's really neat.
What is that?
It's bioluminescence. It's
Yeah, but
plankton.
it's plankton.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
plankton. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Huh.
And yeah, it's just the amount of different things you see underwater in Roatan, and the price you pay to go diving there just makes it just one of the best places on earth to go diving, in my opinion. Now, I haven't been diving in like Thailand or Vietnam or in Asia, but I've heard Asia is a great, fantastic place as well. It's very inexpensive to go diving
wow.
there.
Where in Asia would you go, or have you heard, or some sites?
Thailand, I don't know.
Philippines?
Yeah, Philippines, Thailand. I've heard Thailand.
Yeah.
I heard is a great place to go diving.
Vietnam, I guess.
Vietnam too. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah,
What about Japan? Or is that more north?
That's more
Maybe
north.
too
I've
cold?
never heard of.
You never heard of like it? I'm sure they have dive
I'm
spots.
sure they do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe
No.
it's not as like
Certain places out in the Pacific as well. I mean, I forget
Guam
where
or
it's at.
Samoa?
Yeah, I think it's Guam, right?
Yeah.
It has aircraft from World War II that were shot down, and they're sitting there in fairly shallow water, and you can go dive amongst aircraft.
that's the other thing about diving. You have an opportunity to do these like shipwrecks or like other wrecks, huh? That you can
One of
explore.
my favorite things to do.
Yeah. Especially if you're a history buff.
One of my absolute favorite things to do is to penetrate a wreck. Yeah, it's really neat. The wreck dives that I've done a wreck dive in Cabo San Lucas. It was a cargo ship. It was about 100 feet of water. I was able to go inside that cargo ship into the bridge and into the cargo area and dive around there. And then in Roatan, at least every time I go to Roatan, there's another cargo ship that's in about 107 feet of water. It's called El Águila, the Eagle, El Águila. You've been to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you can penetrate the cargo hold and you can swim the length of that ship. I mean, it's really neat. That's one of my favorite things to do is wreck dives.
Yeah.
I love wreck dives.
So to give people some insight to where Roatan is, it's off the coast of Honduras
Yep.
in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
It's an island unto itself, obviously. And yeah, it's really pretty. I've been there once. You took me there for my first time in September of
But what
I think
makes
21 maybe?
What makes it so cheap to dive there is because of all the dive sites. Like you go to Roatan, all of the dive sites are less than 5-minute boat. It's less than
Yeah,
a
it's
5-minute
like you're
boat
right
ride.
there.
You're right there. Yeah.
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 You don't have to travel maybe like an hour or
Yep.
30 minutes or whatever to get to your dive spot.
Yeah. One of my favorite dive spots over there is you have Canyon Reef in Roatan. Canyon Reef is really neat because it's almost like cave diving, but it's not. You're diving in between the reef system, right? And so you're going through what they call swim throughs, right? There's just this one long swim through, and you're diving in between the reef, and that's really, really, really cool. That's really neat. That's one of my favorite spots. Hole in the Wall, that's another cool place. That's kind of a deep dive. That would take you down to an arch, right? And so you go through this arch, and once you go through the arch, it's a very large arch. Once you go through the arch, then you are about 120 feet through that arch. And then you just take you take a left, and then you swim back up through the reef. And so that's a really, really neat
It's
dive.
like dramatic scenes. Huh?
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful, but it's a whole different world while you're under it. And that's what I really like about it is, being able to see all that firsthand. It's a whole different world underwater.
So at this point, what we'll do is we pre-recorded this segment earlier, and we're gonna call Liana from Jackson Dive Center, which is probably your favorite dive center, right?
Yeah.
Or scuba.
So Jackson Dive Center. So when I first started going to Roatan, I wasn't diving with Liana. I was staying at a place called Half Moon Bay Resort, which is
Oh, I love that
over
spot.
in West End. Yep.
Yeah.
And we're staying at these little cabins, and it costs us like less than $50. That's another thing too. Roatan, like
Can be cheap.
it can be.
It can
cheap.
be expensive, but
It can be. Yeah.
it's pretty cheap.
As far
too.
as it goes with like accommodations, using Half Moon Bay as an example, cost us $50 a night,
Yeah.
and you're in this air conditioned cabin, and it's
It's rustic. I mean, it's not.
yeah.
It's not 5-star, 4-star
It's not
even.
5-star,
but it's clean. It's nice.
it's what you need. It has AC. It has a shower running. You know, it has what you need. But what's really neat about it is you have a hammock right outside right outside the cabin, right?
yeah.
And so you just open up your door, and then you look out, and there's Half Moon Bay, and Half Moon Bay right in front of this area. Right in front of your cabins, you have the reef system just sitting right there. You go out into the water, and the water's like feet away.
Yeah.
You know, you look down, and sure enough, there's a reef system. And it's a really, really cool spot.
So at this point, not to cut you off, let's listen in our call to Liana. Hopefully, at this point.
All right. Hey, Liana.
Hello.
Hey, Liana, how are you? All right.
Yep.
I think we got you loud and clear. I got Lou on.
Hello, Liana.
Alrighty. Hello.
All right, let's just leave the phone there.
Yeah. So, Liana, can you tell our audience who you are, where you are, and what you're about?
Okay. My name is Liana Jackson. I own a dive center out here in Roatan, Honduras, which is like 36 miles off the coast of Honduras. We dive in daily, 3 dives daily. We basically learn to dive and take you fun diving. We do night dives, we do dawn dives, anything that's fun, basically, with the diving.
Yeah, we can provide testimonials because I've met you once before a couple Septembers ago. I know David Lesh is a good client, so we love you guys and the service you offer. So
Yep, I'm a frequent customer of hers. So
yeah.
Done quite a bit of diving with Liana, and I can attest that her dive shop is extremely professional. And once you get to know Liana and her crew, Tony the dive master, and her crew, it is you become part of their family. So
Yeah.
very, very, very awesome.
It's very family orientated. Very family orientated. That's how it's kind of the experience people have. It's like really family. Like give you that family feeling.
Yep.
And the prices are, I've always found, very fair. Great service,
Yeah.
family oriented, like you said. So yeah, next time I come back to Roatan, hopefully it'd be if not September, maybe sometime next year early.
I believe the first 10, if I remember
There you go.
if I remember correctly, the first 10 dives are $40 a piece, and after a 10th dive, it is $30 a piece. Am I correct?
The 10 dives or more is $30 each. So if you do 10 dives, it's $300 basically.
Okay.
If you do, let's say a Discover Scuba, it's like $120, which is like just doing the basic stuff of diving, the intro of diving, and that's $120. Takes like 3 hours, 2 hours to 3 hours.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about the Jackson, I guess you could say Jackson family and the legacy it's had with respect to scuba diving in Roatan? Because I know your dad...
Well, we've been...
Go ahead.
Yeah, my dad been into this like 50-something years now. And he basically trained me, my brother, my cousin Tony. Well, we're basically a dive legacy. Basically dive legacy in Roatan. Because we were trained by these guys that was in the diving so long. My dad has his own dive shop, but my brother came out and made his own Jackson Dive Center. And kind of following the same kind of routine as my dad, but just smaller. We're not for the huge group. It's small and very easygoing. I've been diving since I was 8 years old.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And it's it's kind of, different, but it's the same chill, easy diving. We don't have that ripping current that a lot of places have out there. Nice walls. Um, well, I was dive master at 17 years old. Got approved by PADI or PDIC back in those days when I was 18. And then this is me here now.
And tell us a little bit, if you could, about your brother Reno. Reno was also a very huge part of of the island of Roatan and
Oh,
its
yeah.
dive culture.
He, bas- he basically brought in a lot of different stuff that we didn't know existed, such as the nudie branch and the sea slugs and
Yep.
stuff. He loved doing macro dive, we call it.
Yep.
He has like 18 unknown species that nobody knew about in the ocean that he found out here. He's been diving. He was diving like at least 20 something years, also 25, 30 years probably. He was a really easygoing guy, very family orientated as well. That's why you get the vibe in the shop like that. He's a very big, huggy, gentle giant, basically.
Yeah, he was about what, 6'5", 6'6". He was a tall dude.
Si-
Remember, he was pretty tall.
He was 6'4",
6'4",
246 pounds.
Yep. Yeah, but,
Pretty big guy, but very easygoing.
And one of the pioneers of diving over in Roatan. Your dad, he was also a very interesting.
My dad,
guy.
Alvin Jackson. Yeah,
Yep.
very, very young. Started it all, so that's how he fed us, basically. This is where we are now. The schooling and everything. He basically worked as a dive master at Enthusiast, which is a big empire here right now. Enthusiast is a big resort. They started that there, and they basically he left and started his own stuff, which is what he wanted to do.
And your dad, and if I remember correctly, you were telling me the story about how your dad dove with Jacques Cousteau, right? When he visited.
Yeah, he did. Yes, he did.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was
Jacques Cousteau and Paul Newman. One of the book Fish Finder books. He did dove with both of them, and they were probably taking pictures at the same time and making their books.
And that was
way back.
That was
talking about
60s?
80s.
Oh, that was 80s. Okay. Yeah, that was.
In the 80s, basically 70s, 80s. That's when he was hanging out with them because that's when they did their big intro diving and stuff.
And the island was a totally different place back in that time. If I remember.
Oh
correctly,
yeah, 30 years ago, it was like nobody's here. Got one flight coming in. No electricity in certain areas. It was really different.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I guess it's a little bit like what Cancun was back in the 70s and 80s before it blew up and became what it is now. But now,
exactly.
Not saying that Roatan will. Hopefully, I'm hoping Roatan never becomes what Cancun is today. But yeah, it kind of use that as a.
The development definitely is there. It's happening. Like, it's a lot happening, but we need to slow the pace down because, we need to be a little bit more chill and not that fast-going, stressful life.
Yeah, it's all those gringos that are, infiltrating the island. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come in and we at times when we dive with them, we have to remind them they're not in New York. You're in Roatan, man. Come on.
Right.
Right. It's beautiful and it's no stress. That's have a few beers and chill out. Just go diving the next morning.
That's it. That's the way the lifestyle is. When you go, if you're a big diver, that's the way the lifestyle is. You do 2 or 3 dives a day, rinse, wash, repeat.
Yep.
And
yep.
That's the lifestyle.
Yeah.
Go back to wherever you're staying. Go hang out in the pool. Go relax for a little bit. Go grab some dinner at night. Go grab a beer, and then wake up early next morning. Go back at it again.
Yeah.
Go back diving again.
Yep. So that's
with
at
it
least
being
my routine.
Yeah, and with it being Sunday, Punta Gorda is a big day today, huh? Aren't there like festivities usually?
Well, Punta Gorda, yeah, it's a lot of people go out there for that dance that they do, and they eat the machuca and the McCoy and all of that stuff. It's all custom from Roatan. We all have these different cooking and different food that we introduce the foreigners to, and they really enjoy it. It's great out there too.
Hey, so what's going on today? You have any dives going out today, or
Oh yeah, this morning I had to a boat 8:30, and then we had some student go out at 10:30, and then this afternoon at 2 we had a few other fun divers just going out there and swimming around with the turtles.
oh nice,
Big turtle rush this afternoon.
oh nice.
10:30 we had about 4 or 5 turtles out there and about 2 eagles, big ones. Pretty good dive.
Yeah, that was one thing I remember. The diversity of aquatic life was awesome. And yeah, what I loved about Reno, his passion was on, like, I guess you call it the macro.
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 The macro diving.
Yeah. And the nudie branches they were called.
Nudie branch,
yeah.
yep.
Which we'll have to put a picture up for our
Nudie
viewers.
branch.
But yeah, it's such a cool animal.
I mean, yeah, I mean he's
It's a small thing too.
Mm-hmm.
very very tiny.
Very small.
Yeah, and how Tony
2 millimeters basically.
how Tony spots him out in the middle of, like, out in the bottom.
Nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden, so Tony, the dive master, Tony he'll be diving along and he'll spot. Usually, it's like a leaves or debris on the ocean bottom, right? And so he'll just
A
go,
green of rice.
Yep, a grain of
Wow.
rice. Yeah, he'll pick it up.
Yeah.
He'll sit there and he'll look for that grain of rice, and then he'll bring out he's got, so for macro diving you need specialty cameras and specialty types of lens, underwater lens, right? So he'll bring out that equipment and he'll start filming them, and then when we get back, he basically uploads it to his computer and
It inspects it.
and
On Facebook.
yep, on
Wow.
Facebook, and
Yeah.
so
Direct to Facebook and Instagram.
oftentimes you'll see a lot of Tony's footage and a lot of other folks' footage too. A lot of divers who go dive with Jackson, they'll upload their dive footage to the page. So
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So, how can people look you up on Instagram or Facebook or on the internet?
We're basically, you find us way faster at Facebook and Instagram. We're Jackson Dive Center. Just write it in there and you'll find us there. We got all our information you need there.
Yeah, I just found.
And there's
you.
also a
Jackson's-
page.
yeah.
There's a page also the same name.
Okay. Yeah, I just found you on Instagram, Jackson's Dive Center, or dive
yep.
jacksonsroatan.com. So, yeah, we'll post
you go.
links
That's it.
so everyone can find you who's interested in diving with you
Alrighty.
guys. All right, we're back.
awesome.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love that spot. They're good people, and yeah, God bless Reno, man.
Yeah, Reno. Yeah, he'll be missed. And Liana didn't mention this, but Reno unfortunately passed away shortly after COVID. He passed away from I wouldn't say COVID-related symptoms, but he passed away from he had a heart attack actually. It's pretty sad, but you know how COVID brought about underlying health issues in some folks, right?
Yeah.
So,
But the legacy lives on still with Jackson Dive Center, and
Yep.
for people who
It
want to
was-
go down to the Roatan, that's definitely a spot to go to.
he was a hell of a guy and dear friend of mine, and I'm gonna miss him. But fortunately, Jackson Dive Center is still striving. It's doing very well, in my opinion. And if you ever get the opportunity, I highly recommend diving with Liana. She's with Liana and Jackson. Great place to go.
And everything's right there
Everything
in West
is
End.
right there. Yep.
Yeah.
What a lot of folks do, unfortunately, is what a lot of folks do is they'll go to Anthony's Key Resort, and it's all good, but if that's the type of environment you like to dive in. But thing about AKR, I've never dove with them before, but thing about those guys is you're in a large, huge group with one dive master, one instructor, right, who's in charge of 20 or more people, and it just
Oh, you lose that personal touch,
you
huh?
lose the personal touch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's what I like about Jackson.
Yep, you have the personal touch.
It's like almost one-on-one. I mean,
Exactly.
I think like the biggest group is like you, me, and maybe like 3 other people, if that.
Well, I mean,
Maybe less?
I've been on some pretty large groups with Liana, but at that point, if there's a large enough group, she'll assign 2 dive masters.
Oh, okay. So you can
Yeah.
kind of divide, split off.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if it's a large enough group, and I've been in a large diving group with Liana, and especially when she does the night dives, she'll have a good amount of people with the night dives. She'll do the dawn dives as well too. I've never done a dawn dive with her, but
Oh, a dawn dive. Yeah.
yeah, it's like 5 a.m.
What?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be interesting too, like the dawn dive, because now you have, I guess, the angle of the sun is more angular, so I guess you can see more shadows, right?
Well, that's in between. Yeah,
But I guess
as
they're on
sun's
the west
coming up-
side, huh?
Yeah, yeah. And that's a really neat thing about Roatan too. I mean, if diving isn't your thing, let's say you don't want to do diving, you can still do snorkeling.
Yeah, you can snorkel. Yeah.
There's a bunch of places to go snorkeling there. If that's your thing, and I've done the snorkeling, and I've done night snorkeling. Heck, I mean, for fun. What I've done is during the day I'll go diving, and then go home, have a little dinner, chill out, relax for a little bit, and then I'll get together with some of the folks that I've met on some of these excursions, and we'll be like, hey, let's go do a night snorkel.
That's
And
cool.
we'll take a lantern, and we'll go to a shallow reef over in Half Moon Bay and swim out there and just snorkel around. And it's actually, you and I did that our first night.
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I didn't bring my rash guard. And
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you got hit with fire
that's-
coral.
No, it wasn't fire coral. I got hit by a jellyfish.
Oh no.
I got hit by a jellyfish in the back. Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, it kind of sucked.
Yeah.
So
So that's why it pays to like wear some sort of protective layer.
yeah, especially so the protective layer, the rash guard, that's really good to use, especially if you're doing a night dive or a night snorkeling.
Yeah, because you never know what you're gonna hit, huh?
So there's been times. So when you're doing a night dive, you just have to be careful because they tell you to shut off your light as you're coming up towards the surface, right? You want to shut off your light because those jellyfish will get attracted to the light,
Oh.
right? So they tell you shut off your light as you're ascending. And in addition to that, you're going to want to purge your whatchamacallit, your octopus, your backup, right? You're going to purge this. It'll start expelling air, right? And so you'll hang this over your head as you're ascending, and any jellyfish, because they're just floating around there, right? Any jellyfish will, they'll disperse from the.
You're basically knocking them out
You're
with
knocking
air.
them out with the air. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because you don't want to surface and then surface into a whole bunch of jellyfish.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
so that's one of the things that they tell you is start purging your whatchamacallit, your octopus. Yeah,
as you're ascending.
as
Okay.
you're ascending. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
And yeah, even if someone doesn't care to do snorkeling or scuba diving, there's fishing opportunities. You and I did, I guess, quote unquote,
yeah.
deep sea fishing, but it was right there. You didn't have to travel, like as opposed to like if you live in Louisiana, you'd have to go to Venice to go offshore fishing.
One of the biggest fishing tournaments is held in Roatan. One of the biggest offshore. I think the grand prize is what, $50,000-$60,000.
Yeah.
And so you basically
Did you go there during that?
I went there. Yeah, I went there. I didn't participate in any fishing, but I did. I did see the tournament going on, and
What do they call that? Bill fishing tournaments?
Yep, it's a
like
bill
for
fish.
like marlin or like big fish.
Yeah, but there's different categories. I mean, there's a volume, amount of weight.
Okay.
It's like biggest wahoo. So there's different categories that you can win. But yeah, if you end up catching the biggest billfish, you end up taking home the grand prize. The whole crew, the whole boat you're in will end up winning $50,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of those tournaments throughout the Caribbean, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that world too much. That's intriguing. I know, like, obviously Venice has their, is it Venice? They have a famous bill fishing. No, Grand Isle. The Grand Isle.
Yeah, the tarpon rodeo.
Yeah, the tarpon rodeo. And I know the tarpon, it's like a game fish that, like, they migrate throughout the Caribbean and the Gulf.
As a matter of fact, as you're talking about fishing, if you're a fly fisherman, the fly fishing I've done fly fishing over in Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge is farther on the other side of where we usually stay over in West End, right? We're on West End. Oak Ridge is about an hour and a half. It's beautiful, beautiful part of the island. So if you ever visit, make sure you visit Oak Ridge. They have beautiful mangroves, and you like to go fly fishing, Roatan on the fly. There's a gentleman there. Oh man, what was
Yeah, I
his-
remember you hired him, huh, for a guide service?
Yep, he'll do like a 4 hour. He'll take you more than 4 hours though, but yeah, you'll go fish in the flats, and
Oh, wow.
that is a cool experience.
What'd you
go fly
catch?
fishing.
What'd you catch?
I ended up catching damn it, hold on. Ended up catching a bone. That was bonefish.
Oh, yeah,
the
bonefish.
bonefish. Yeah.
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 Permit? Have you ever caught permit?
No, I was trying to go after permit, but my fly fishing skills suck. But
Oh man,
yeah, no, but
those have to be fun to catch, huh? They fight?
Bonefish is you can't eat them because hence their name, they're bony, right? But
It's a good, fun sport.
as far as it goes with like catching them on a fly rod, it's pretty cool. Very, very cool. But
and when I went with you, we did tuna. We caught tuna.
We were catching a small tuna and all. Yep.
Yeah, that was
and
cool.
the barracuda. Yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah.
Real
So
good
if you're
time.
not a scuba enthusiast or don't care about that or even snorkeling, you can do fishing. If not, there's some great nightlife. There's great
fantastic
food.
The food is really good.
The drinks, the bars. What about, and there's even, for cigar people, Frank's Cigar Bar.
Yep. The Frank Cigar Oh yeah.
Is it?
Frank's Cigar
Yeah.
Bar is. Yeah, it's a smaller.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
small.
smaller spot, but yeah, I mean it's a really cool spot. It's a real cool spot.
Yeah, people were cool when I went. Like, just awesome atmosphere, environment.
Yeah, it's really laid back. And what's really neat about Roatan, if you're really worried about the whole Spanish, English, communication, right? I can guarantee you that everybody living on that island speaks both languages. It's a really unique place. Talking to Liana, if you notice, Liana's got that Caribbean.
Yeah.
She's got
Like the
that
island
unique
accent.
accent.
Yeah, it's cool.
And so Liana speaks both Spanish and English. Everybody there speaks both languages. So communication won't be an issue whatsoever.
Yeah.
They use lempiras over there. That's a Honduran national currency. They use lempiras, but they also accept dollars. So
Yeah, they'll take those dollars.
they'll take those dollars. Now, thing is, your dollars can't be damaged. Like you can't have a $20 that's ripped.
Oh,
or,
I remember that.
Yeah, you can't have a $20.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
That was kind of frustrating. I remember you telling me, like, before I went, my first time with you, make sure the bills you get are like crisp and like no tear, no imperfection, because they won't accept it. What's with that?
And it's a thing with the banks, from what I
really?
understand it. Yeah, and so the banks they won't take any American, any U.S. dollars with any currency with any imperfections or
I wonder why
rips and
that
stuff
is.
like that. I don't
Maybe
know.
counterfeiting
Maybe so. I'm not entirely too sure.
concerns, or it's weird.
Yeah, even though you know how sometimes when you go to the supermarket, they'll take a 20 and they'll use that marker and make sure it's real. Yeah, they won't take those either if they have that mark going down the middle.
Are you serious? Even if they had that mark,
Yep.
that anti-currency pen
Yep. I will say this much.
or counterfeit.
One of the more difficult things is actually finding lempiras here in the United States. You know how some travelers, they'll go to the airport and be like, hey, exchange X amount of dollars into wherever you're going, right?
Yeah, whatever the local currency.
Yeah,
is.
whatever the local Mexican pesos or whatever. I usually fly through Miami, or I've flown through Miami a whole bunch of times, flown through Texas, Dallas, and Houston, right? Each time I was over at the airport, at those different airports, I've tried to exchange dollars into lempiras, and that's just a toughie. That's a hard currency to find.
Yeah, I remember the first time I was trying to buy lempiras in the U.S. and like no bank.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't find any bank here. You want some more coffee?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, they just wouldn't accept it. And little travel tip: one of the worst places to buy, foreign currency is at like an airport.
Yeah,
because this exchange rate's going to
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
much
they
screw you.
they take a nice chunk too. But those airport exchange places, they take their cut.
So if you can get it locally, like at your local bank, you're going to get the best rate.
Best bang for your buck. Yeah,
Yeah. Because you obviously don't want to lose.
because they're not
money.
going to take too much off the
Right.
top.
But yeah, for some reason the Lampita is like not really commonly available.
And so Roatan too. Now, talk about Roatan is called. It's part of a system of bay islands, in Spanish. It's Islas de la Bahia, right? That's the name of the, I guess you call it the state, right? You know how Mexico has its own states, U.S., U.S. has its own states, right? So Roatan is part of Islas de la Bahia, Islands of the Bay.
Islands of the Bay.
Yep,
Okay.
Islas de la Bahia. And so Roatan has two other sister islands, right? You have Guanaja. I've never been to Guanaja. And then you have Utila. And Utila, that's another really, really good dive destination. The thing about Utila, though, is if you think Roatan is kind of, you'll have a party atmosphere in Roatan. Don't get me wrong. The nightlife is a lot of fun there. Utila is...
That's even more party central.
That's even more party central, right? Yeah.
Like college kids type.
College kids and
Like getting crazy, huh?
Oh, and it's dirt cheap too. I remember
Oh, wow.
I remember the only one time I went to Utila was with Gus, and I went with full intentions to wake up in the morning, go diving, and we found it to be so damn cheap. That's why Gustavo calls it. Our friend Gus calls it. The Devil Island.
Y'all had too much of a good time that
God.
one time?
Well, yeah. I mean, the place we ended up going, it was right across the street from the hotel we were staying at. And the little hotel was it was stupid. It was like $20 a night.
What?
Yeah, it's
Jeez.
dirt cheap. Yeah, I think that we ended up, our dinner cost more than the hotel stay.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And so when we went there, I went there with the full intent of diving the next day. And guess what? I didn't dive the next day.
Oh, no.
Those 25-cent tequila shots. Oh.
25-cent tequila shots?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll derail any...
Yeah, Gus and I woke up the next day. He was like, man, let's get the hell off this island.
So how do you travel from island to island? By boat or plane?
Ferry.
Oh, there's a ferry?
You can actually, you can do it by plane too, but Roatan has a ferry service to both Guanaja and Utila. And you catch it very close to where the cruise ships dock at.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's how more and more Americans are... Yeah, go get you another one.
Thank you.
That's how more and more Americans are discovering Roatan is right via the cruise setup.
Yep.
Because now it's a major stop.
Yep.
But I guess a lot of these Americans, they just only go there for like a day or a few hours,
yeah,
right?
they go there for like a day or a few hours, and they really don't get to experience the island because, I mean,
Yeah, you don't have much time.
you don't have much time. I mean, if cruising is your thing, go for it, But, one thing I personally don't like about cruising is you don't get to see the destination,
like fully.
You don't see it. You don't get to fully experience it, right? And plus, if you're a diver and you go off a cruise ship, a lot of these dive shops charge you a cruise ship rate.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, they're like taking advantage?
Nah, not really. I mean,
But there's a premium of some sort
Yeah.
they charge, huh?
yeah. Yeah, because, they're working with the cruise ships, right?
Oh,
And the cruise
there's probably
ships are
some
going to
little...
take... Yeah, the cruise
some
ships are
system
trying to
going on.
take their cut, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because, hey, we got customers. What are you going to do for me?
Exactly.
Yeah. I get it. Hey, it's capitalism.
So, but, yeah,
But this is good tips for anyone listening that gets a little hankering to do some of this exploring.
Oh, and I forgot to mention one place where I have been diving here in the States. If you're looking for somewhere that's a little bit more local, is, like the Keys, the
Yeah.
Florida Keys.
Did you ever
offer-
dive in the Keys?
Yeah, I've been diving in Key West. Yeah, Key West is pretty damn good.
Okay.
Key West is nice.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's a little pricey compared to like Roatan, right? But it's good. It's a good time.
Okay.
And you can if I remember correctly, let's see, did I do any shore diving? I didn't do any shore diving in Key West. Only time I've really done shore diving was in Roatan.
Shore diving being the act of, I guess, disembarking or going into the water directly from like the beach, not using a boat to get out there.
Yep.
Okay. Shore diving. Yeah.
Yep. And oh man, one thing I forgot to mention too is with respect to Roatan. Roatan has a program, and I'll show you the. Give me a sec. Let me fish that out here. Roatan has a program. Here we go. All my certs. It has a Roatan. It has a spearfishing program offered by the Marine Park, and you take
Huh?
a lionfish.
Yeah, let me see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll take a picture so people can see it online or on YouTube.
Yep. And so they have a lionfish program, right? You can get certified if you're a frequent visitor to Roatan. You can spearfish all the lionfish that you can spear all the lionfish that you want.
And don't worry, I guess I'll block out any numbers or anything that's. But I guess it's basically a
there's
license
really-
to spear for lionfish.
Correct. Yep. And so there's no limit. And so lionfish are invasive species, pretty much up and down, up and down the Caribbean. They were introduced. Lionfish were introduced because people who had fish tanks and whatnot, right, would buy these lionfish, and they'd keep them in the tanks, and then after a while, they get bored of them and flush them down the toilet, and from there, all hell broke loose.
Oh man!
It's become invasive species, and so these lionfish. What's crazy? The lionfish have no. It's beautiful, beautiful fish. I don't know if you've ever seen a lionfish before. It's a really pretty fish, but it's covered in. It's not covered, but it has venomous spines, right? It has no natural predators, and so because of those spines, nothing eats them because of those spines, those venomous spines, and so. What lionfish have begun to do is start to decimate the local populations of fish in the reef, and so they've affected the population so badly that in Key West, they have similar programs. You can go in there in Key West in Florida and anywhere in Florida, and you can spear lionfish, and you can keep as many as you want.
No limit, huh? Just kill them all.
No limit, kill them all. That's what they want you to do is eradicate, is kind of lessen the environmental impact that these fish are having on the local fish populations.
Oh man.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen the tools that they'll use. It's almost like this long steel
Yellow spear,
spear with like the trident
The
or
trident,
like
yep, the 3 prongs.
Yeah.
Yep. And so
Like spikes or spears, and like you almost like use it like a slingshot, right?
Yep, it's like exactly like a slingshot,
Yeah.
right? It goes around your thumb and you just stretch back and
You've speared some, huh?
oh, I've speared quite a few, yeah. And that's every time I go diving, on one of the dives, I'll bring a spear with me every once in a while.
Okay.
Yep. And so what I'll do with those lionfish, if I end up spearing one, right, bring them back on the boat, and you have to be very, very careful when you're, cutting the spines off and filleting the fish. You have to remove the spines very, very carefully. Cut off the spines, cut off the head, and then you fillet the fish, right? You get a small fillet, but there's a lady right next to the dive shop, Miss Loretta, and you bring your fish fillets over to Miss Loretta, and she'll fry them, serve them with the rice, beans,
Oh man.
plantains.
Ooh.
Oh yeah,
Good stuff, huh?
It's absolutely delicious.
So you after you harvest the lionfish, you actually dress it yourself, like fillet it, and so you gotta be careful. Obviously, you don't want those spines to prick you.
Very, very, yeah.
What if you get hit with the spines?
I was about to say it's extremely, extremely painful from what I've been told.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
And so-
say, have you ever gotten hit with?
Never, no,
Yeah.
no. I've gotten hit by a catfish down here, as you know.
Yeah, I know. I remember that. Ugh.
That sucked.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what a lionfish is like, but the toxin, is pretty damn painful, and so you end up getting hit. Anything venomous. Let's say you end up getting hit by a lionfish, or you end up, brushing up next to fire coral, right? You have to get not almost boiling water, pretty damn hot water, and you have to dip whatever appendage that has been, let's say you sting your hand, right? Which is what happens frequently with lionfish, right? You dip your hand into very, very hot water, and the hot water draws out the venom.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and reduces the effects of the venom.
What happens if one doesn't treat
You're
I guess
gonna be-
exposed
you
skin?
I'm not entirely too
You
sure.
can't.
What
Can you die from it?
I don't think you can unless you have anaphylaxis, unless you have an allergic reaction to it. I mean, if you have a bad allergic reaction to it, it can be life-threatening.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's very, 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 very painful from what I've been told. I actually, one of the guys that I dive with, his name's Blair Campbell, Beaver Blair.
Beaver Blair?
Yeah, he's from Canada. I nickname him Beaver.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
he's a good egg. He's a good dude. Anyways, Blair ended up getting tagged by a lionfish on one of his last trips over in Roatan. And I remember seeing the video of it, and he was like dipping his hand in like a bucket of really, really hot water, and I saw his hand. His hand was just, oh yeah, it was
Like
pretty
inflamed?
Bad. Oh yeah,
Jeez.
Yeah, it was pretty swollen.
Really
up.
bad, huh? Painful?
Yeah, the worst thing I've ever gotten was, like I said, fire coral, jellyfish stings.
And what does
But-
fire coral look like?
So fire coral,
You can tell what
when
it
you
is?
dive, yeah, you can tell what it is. If it's bright orange, red in color, if it's this red, it's this bright orange, almost reddish color coral. If you end up brushing against it accidentally, it will create a rash. It's almost like a jellyfish thing. It'll create a pretty painful rash. It was the time I got it in my leg, around my knee, and I came out and I was like, man, this is starting to burn kind of bad. What the hell is this? So I remember Liana was like, oh, you brushed up against the fire coral. She knew what it was immediately. So she whipped out the vinegar and the hydrogen peroxide. Well, she poured a whole bunch of hydrogen peroxide on my knee. And boy,
It hurt?
oh yeah, it hurt.
Oh, man.
It hurt something bad. It stung. So what the hydrogen peroxide is, it just cleans out the wound, right? And then
That's good stuff, like just
Yeah.
in general.
it
And it's a
cl-
cheap product, too.
Yep.
It's like one of the best, like, healthy products to use.
And it cleans out the wound, make sure you don't have any bacteria. And then she put on the vinegar, just plain old white vinegar. Poured white vinegar on it just to neutralize the sting. And so what the white vinegar does, it neutralizes the stinging cells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And it takes the pain away. It takes the venomation, basically. Yeah.
So, yeah, you, how many times you go to Roatan or try to? Is this something like you try to go to often?
3-4 times a year, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hopefully like it doesn't, like I know we're talking about it. I'm not like with our viewership, we're not going to send this like gold rush of people down there, but man, I'm sure at some point it's just, I kind of liken it to Costa Rica, what happened with Costa Rica. Like in the 80s or before, it was unknown, sleepy.
Yep.
And then over time, like Americans found out about it. They started moving down there. American expatriates started like retiring down there.
And that's the really neat thing about, Mexico does this too. Like Mexico and Honduras, it allows foreigners to purchase property over there. And from what I've been told, the whole process is very similar to buying a house here. And, you can buy property over in Roatan. You can buy property in Mexico for, a couple $100,000. It's,
Man, cheap,
Yeah.
relatively
And-
speaking.
but like here, the closer you get to the water, the more expensive it is. But
Oh, yeah.
you can buy property over there for nice little cabin, as an example, $150,000. I mean, it's a good chunk of change, but I mean, hey, you got a little slice of paradise.
Yeah, you're in the island.
Yeah, you're in the island. You have a little slice of paradise, and so yeah, you get it. From what I've been told, you can get it insured. You can do all that stuff. And,
Yeah.
and it's a, I mean, to me, I mean, it's a good investment. All that property is going to do is appreciate in value
Yeah. Especially
over time.
once the word really gets out, which I predict it will. Another thing about what I liked about the time I went to Roatan with you, we went to Punta Gorda.
Yeah,
The
Punta Gorda.
The PG.
The PG, yeah.
Which
that's-
can you explain a little bit about the culture of
So-
people there in that part of Roatan?
So Punta Gorda is made up of it's a Afro-Caribbean, right? It's Afro-Caribbean Afro-Caribbean community in Roatan. And so they have their own unique culture, their food.
They have their own language too.
They
Huh?
have their own yeah.
Is that like from African?
Yep. It's like
Yeah,
kind of
origin?
like pidgin, Pidgin, Pidgin.
Oh,
Yeah. Yep, and they have their own culture, their own community, their own language. That's a dialect. It's more of a dialect, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's really unique place. The food is fantastic, and the people are just wonderful, beautiful people. I mean,
Yeah. What was that one spot we went to? Like this restaurant. I say it's a restaurant, but it's like like a
Yeah, it's
private business. It was small.
it's called La Garifuna.
Oh, that's the name of the people?
Yeah, and that's the name of the people, and that's actually Garifuna is what they speak. Is that's also the name of the
okay.
dialect.
Yeah.
So the Garifuna people, that's yeah.
They have this one little restaurant that it was like almost like a shack. I don't want to
Yep.
say a shack, but like this structure they built over the water,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to walk to it via a pier from connected to land, and you're sitting there eating this lunch or this meal over the water. Like it's awesome.
Oh yeah, and it's delicious.
And what was that soup that
The
they're
soup
famous for?
was machado.
Machao?
Machado.
Machado.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is that?
And so it's a hodgepodge. It's a little bit of conch. You get lobster tail, and a little bit of everything.
Fish?
It's almost fish. Yeah, it's almost like it's not like our gumbo, but in a sense that you have a little bit of different flavor, and it's made out of coconut. It's made out of coconut and its own ingredients. And
Yeah. Like
it's
coconut milk
absolutely-
or
it's almost
something
like a soup.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it hot or cold?
No, it was hot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's delicious.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And it's almost like dumpling soup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's made with, if I remember correctly, it was banana. Wasn't it banana? Yeah, it was like mashed banana.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not plátanos, huh?
Plátano.
Like
yeah.
plantains?
Yep.
Yeah.
But no, and I mean, Punta Gorda, yeah, if you get the opportunity to visit Roatan, it's like, yeah, you have to go see the PG, go visit the PG. They're
Yeah.
very, very awesome.
And on Sundays, like we were talking to Liana, it's like every
Mhm.
Sunday is like this little festival they have, almost, or a party
Mm-hmm.
in that little town.
Every Sunday, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique place. I mean, it's kind of almost a little bit like New Orleans in the sense that it's a melting pot of different
Yeah.
cultures.
Yeah, the
you have-
British influence,
Yep, because
the
Roatan
Spaniards.
was a British colony. As a matter of fact, Roatan was one of those old pirate colonies.
Oh.
Yeah, and so of course, with piracy came the slave trade, and that's how the Afro-Caribbean culture sprang up because of the
Yeah.
ex-slaves, right? Created their own communities. Yeah, but I mean, it's a unique place. It's like I said, it's kind of like here in New Orleans, where you have a melting pot of different cultures. You
Yeah.
have the Honduran, you have the Latin culture, the Honduran folks, and then you have the British people. I mean, what's really neat is, I mean, Roatan, you'll find a little bit of everything. You have the Afro-Caribbean, and then you have, the families that have been there for centuries, right? Jackson was shit. That's not a, typical
Spanish.
Latin. It's
Yeah.
not a typical Spanish last name, right? That's a British last name, right? Jackson.
Or at least
Bush.
like white Anglo.
Yep.
Yeah, last name.
Jackson, Bush, So it's really neat. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I know. Hearing about this conversation makes me want to go back now.
Yeah, it's a unique place. You
Yeah.
know, the diving's fantastic. People are fantastic. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's cool. Well, look, let's wrap it up. Before we do, though, how do you like that cigar? I know it's your second.
fantastic. And I forgot to mention I have a little something here for you.
Okay.
That I got from Mardi Gras.
Oh yeah, because you're a big Mardi Gras fan.
Yeah, I'm a huge Mardi Gras fan. That'll be a different episode though.
Yeah.
Hold
So
on
yeah,
a
what
sec.
you got here? You brought some goodies here. Yeah, because this year you went like to a lot of the parades.
I went to all the Uptown parades. So
Oh, man.
I'm just trying to find wherever the heck I left it. Hold on, give me a sec.
Got some goodies for us.
All right, sir.
Ooh, man, I know
So-
what that is.
Oh yeah. So here you go. You
Cool.
can take that out the wrapper. That's a Zulu coconut.
Here, I'll leave that here as part of our props now.
That's part of the shop. It's one of the many coconuts. And hold on.
So So for people who don't know, what is this about?
All right, so Zulu. So each Mardi Gras crew has its own separate signature throw, right? And so Zulu is one of the more established social clubs, or what we call crews, right? And they parade on Mardi Gras Day. They are one of the big parades, uptown on Mardi Gras Day. And so Crew of Zulu has traditionally handed out decorated coconuts, and I believe that they started that. Forget what the name of the guy was. He ended up buying a whole bunch of coconuts from a local market, started decorating them, and that's how the
cool.
whole tradition.
Yeah, I don't even know how that tradition started.
That's how it started. And he bought a whole sack of coconuts, started decorating them, and
that's cool. Yeah, they're still hand painted today. Everyone
still hand painted.
tries to get that Zulu coconut.
Yeah, that's a throw that you want to get. You always want to get a coconut if you're at Zulu.
Yeah.
And then hold on a sec. I have to take off these real quick.
Yeah,
I
no
gotta
worries.
reach down.
But yeah, no, I love the Zulu coconuts. They're awesome. Definitely one of those prizes and throws that people try to get during Mardi Gras. And it just goes to show you that, the coconut in New Orleans, it's very Caribbean. People have said that New Orleans is the most northern Caribbean city.
Yeah.
Rightly so.
And then I brought you Tuck's official blue balls.
Oh, wow. What is Tuck's Blue Balls?
That's Crew of Tuck's.
Oh, man, that's crazy. That's so funny.
That's super. That's
nice. We'll leave those blue balls right here. We'll fix that later. No, that's funny, man. Well, appreciate you coming in today, Dave.
This has been a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed doing this, and
man.
I can't wait to do it over again. So,
we'll have you on again in the future.
Thank you very much for having me. And,
man. Well, look, before you sign off, we have a lightning round, if you will. If you would please do us the honor.
All right, go for it.
All right, so rapid fire round of questions. Number 1, Tabasco, Crystal, or other?
I would say both, depending on what I'm eating.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, depending on what I'm eating. With respect to like gumbo, I'll go Crystal.
Okay.
Oysters, Tabasco.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Good call. Depends on what you eat.
Raw oysters. Yeah, depends on what I eat.
Number 2, favorite vacation destination.
Okay. I've traveled all over the place. I know I've talked up Roatan quite a bit. I love Roatan. I also like Mexico. Coolest place I've ever been to. When I was 19 years old, went to the pyramids of Egypt. I thought that was just absolutely stunning.
Oh, wow.
Egypt was pretty damn awesome. Spain was pretty damn awesome. I can't say that I really have a favorite,
Oh, you only have one, though. You have to go
only
to one.
have one. Well, in terms of experience, place that I've been to, I'm going to say Egypt.
Okay.
Pyramids of Giza, Cairo.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Number 3, if you could smoke with anyone, alive or deceased, who would it be?
I knew you were going to ask me this one. I've given this one a lot of thought. Initially I wanted to say Winston Churchill because he was a big cigar smoker. Someone throughout history, I would say Winston Churchill, perhaps maybe even a Civil War general would be kind of cool too.
Okay.
I know Jeb Stuart was a cigar smoker. Confederate cavalry general. Ulysses S. Grant.
Oh, yeah, he was a big cigar smoker,
He was a big cigar smoker. Yeah.
I think he liked the small formats.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perfectos.
Let's see. Who else? Stonewall Jackson was not a smoker. Let's see. Yeah, I'd say.
So we'll leave it as like Civil War
Civil War
general.
era.
Yeah,
type
Civil
of
War
individual.
general that enjoyed his smokes.
Yeah.
So
let's see. Next question: what is your desert island cigar? If you only had one cigar to smoke for the rest of your life.
Well, I do enjoy your Madrids and I do enjoy your Barcelona. So either one of those two, those have been my absolute favorite. Or maybe even the what's the name
Some
of
Oscar?
it? No, Star.
Stillwell Star.
Stillwell Star.
Oh,
Thank
nice.
you. Yeah, Stillwell Star.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you like that.
Because I do enjoy my pipe tobacco from here from time to time. So yeah, Stillwell Star.
Very
is
good.
Another one of my faves.
And number 5, who would you want to see here on a future podcast?
Ooh.
Anyone.
Brian Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian Kelly would be kind of cool.
Okay.
From LSU.
Yeah.
Be pretty
Formerly
awesome.
of Notre Dame.
Yep, formerly of Notre Dame. Brian Kelly probably be really intriguing. Think who else? I don't know. Who else is a big cigar smoker?
Well, they don't even have to be a cigar smoker.
Yeah.
Just who would you want to see
Brian
here?
Kelly, I don't know if he is a cigar smoker either. So
Yeah, it doesn't. They don't have to smoke cigars, but just who would you want me to talk to?
yeah,
So
Brian
Brian Kelly?
Brian
Okay.
Kelly, yeah, because I'm a big LSU fan, and yeah, I mean, you know, Sean Payton, if he was still a coach in the Saints, would be awesome.
Yeah.
You know, but unfortunately he isn't. We're
Yeah.
stuck with Dennis Allen and
Oh boy, yeah, we didn't even get to your
my
your-
affinity,
your-
my love
your
for
patronage
the
of the
Saints
Saints. Yeah,
and LSU. Yep, and that's another big passion of mine.
yeah. Well, cool, man. We'll leave it there. Thanks for coming in, Dave. Appreciate
yeah,
it,
no,
man. It was
thank
fun.
you. Thank you, man.
No, we'll
Thanks
have
for
you on
having
again.
me. I had a blast doing this. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah,
we
man.
got to do round 2.
Yeah, exactly. Round 2. All right, everyone. Take care. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.